Chapter 1825. Upon hearing this, Yin Shishir's expression softened. Gong Jia had always been like this. When she was young, he couldn't bear to see anyone bully her. In the past, whenever she was bullied by older children, he would always be the first to protect her. He was like her guardian angel, always the first to appear by her side. She still remembered that once, Xiao Jie got into a fight with a group of children to protect her. There were many of them, and he could only fight alone. Naturally, he could not win against them all. He was covered in injuries and his face was bruised and swollen. She was so scared that she cried herself hoarse. She tried to go forward a few times, but he pushed her away. In the end, it was the adults who rushed over. Only then did the group of children stop and disperse. However, he was beaten until he almost fainted. That was the most overboard incident. It was also the incident that left the deepest impression on her. Yin Shishir said, "I know. As for my identity, I'll find a suitable time to tell you." Okay. After hanging up, Gong Jia and Yu gave each other a high five. "I told you. Mommy will definitely regret being so fierce to you. She's the most soft-hearted." Yu was the one who knew his mother best. After the engagement banquet ended, Jiangshan actually did as he promised and obediently sent over a big red packet. Yin Shishir opened it and saw that it was a 7-figure sum. It was a generous gift, and she did not know whether to laugh or cry. She could almost imagine Jiangshan's aggrieved expression at this moment. She didn't expect that her unintentional joke would be taken seriously by him. When she returned to her room, she looked at the mountain of presents and felt happy and sweet. At this moment, she finally understood why the bride was the happiest woman in the world on the day of her wedding. It was probably because every relationship went through ups and downs before finally bearing fruit. Being able to spend time with the person you love was probably the most blissful expression. At this moment, a line from a song suddenly flashed across her mind. "I've finally waited for you. Luckily, I didn't give up." Happiness comes with great difficulty, so people cherish it even more. Suddenly, the sound of approaching footsteps came from behind. Yin Shishir suddenly came back to her senses. Just as she was about to turn around, a pair of strong arms tightly wrapped around her waist. Mu Yaja hugged her from behind and pulled her into his embrace. He lowered his eyelashes and buried his handsome face in her hair, greedily sniffing the fragrance of her hair. "What are you thinking about?" His gentle and magnetic voice was close to her ears. His warm breath constantly brushed against her elegant and enchanting neck, but it caused her entire body to tremble. Just as she shrunk her shoulders back, who would have thought that he would suddenly press against her ear and intimately suck on her cute little earlobe, but it caused her heart to beat like thunder. What? Don't be like this." Yin Shishir gently pushed him away. Being teased like this, she felt a little ticklish, so she rebuked. "You're making me itchy like this. Who asked you to be so seductive and seduced me? Don't tell me you're allowed to push me away?" The man smiled, but he was not forced back by her rejection. Instead, he became even more aggressive. He bit her earlobe and intimately sucked on it. After a few teasing, her face immediately reacted and spread like a fire. The blush spread from her cheeks to her ears, and even her body was slightly hot. Chapter 1826. Don't. Yin Shishir couldn't stand the tickling and giggled. His breath on her neck made her unbearable. Just as she was about to beg for mercy, he grabbed her shoulders and suddenly turned her body around. He hugged her waist and supported her forcefully. Mu Yaja lowered his gaze, admiring her bashful and seductive look, especially her pair of well-defined eyes. Her eyelashes fluttered like butterfly wings, which accentuated her coquettishness. She looked extremely seductive when she smiled. "Little idiot, do you know?" Mu Yaja nodded and leaned closer to her. He looked at her from an extremely close distance. Their lips were connected and the tips of their noses were touching. Even her eyelashes could feel the touch of his face clearly. Such an intimate distance made her heart beat like a drum. Every sound seemed to be echoing in her ears. He pressed his lips against hers and breathed out, but left a sentence that made her face burn even more. "You're so beautiful right now." Yin Shishir was so shy that she couldn't understand. She clenched her fists nervously and didn't know how to respond to him. Even if it wasn't the first time they were intimate, her reaction was still like a young girl. She bit her lips shyly and didn't know how to react. She clasped her hands behind her back and intertwined her fingers tightly together. Her delicate lips were stiff as if they were tightly pressed together. His praise carried a hint of ambiguity. No matter how stupid she was, she could feel that his body was tense at this moment, all of which was telling her that he desired her. "Do you know? I've been holding it in until now. I really want to take you." Muyaja whispered sweet nothings into her ear, but it made her heart beat faster, and she couldn't resist. She didn't realize that when this man said sweet nothings, he could be so deadly and bewitching. She pursed her lips and half rejected him. "That's not very good, right? Right now it's not nighttime yet. You don't have to care so much." Muyaja hugged her and wanted to kiss her red lips. Yin Shirshir avoided him again. Looking at his urgent attack, she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Wait. The curtains are still open." She blushed as she looked at the wide open floor-to-ceiling window in shock. She wanted to signal him to close the window. However, Muyaja was indifferent. He didn't care if the window was closed or not. He held her in his arms and couldn't wait to kiss those delicate lips that were silently seducing him. Once he kissed her, he couldn't bear to part. He hugged her tightly and couldn't bear to let go. The deep kiss made her blush. Window. Muyaja didn't have the patience to listen to her. No man liked to drag things out, especially when he had endured for such a long time. It wasn't easy for him to deal with those annoying fellows and finally have some private space with her. Hence, some things naturally had to be done in a race against time. Chapter 1827. Her heart calmed down a little. In the next second, her body was in free fall and fell onto the soft Simmons bed. Because of the elasticity, her body bounced a few times and quickly sank into it. The man's tall body covered her and pinned her down, making her unable to move. Yin Shirshir complained in grievance, "Woo. You're so heavy." Just as she finished speaking, she heard the man's low laughter. In the next moment he hugged her and turned around. When she reacted, she had already switched positions with him. He was lying on the bed, and she, on the other hand, was already straddling him in an extremely suggestive posture. A certain point coincidentally allowed her to clearly feel the slightest change in his body. It was menacing, but it made her heart beat like thunder. The man teased her and held her hand, intertwining his fingers with hers. He teasingly asked, "Looks like you prefer to take the initiative?" When Yin Shirshir heard this, her face became even hotter. Luckily, the room was dark at this moment, so the man did not see her embarrassed expression. She was not used to this position. Sitting on top of him like this made her feel very uneasy. It was inevitable that she was at a loss. In this aspect, compared to men's aggressive attacks, women were often more passive. It was difficult for them to take the initiative to conquer a man. To her, this was an even more difficult problem to overcome. However, Muyaja was extremely interested. He wanted to see how charming and enchanting it would be if she was on top. However, with this idea in mind, this woman was not enlightened. She was stunned for a long time and did not move. Muyaja reached out his hand and touched her cheek, across her shoulder and neck. At the same time, he easily untied the silk sash on her back. The gown immediately slid off her shoulders, revealing her chest. She lowered her head and helplessly bit her lips. She was at a loss as to what to do. Her helpless look made him laugh. "What, you don't know what to do?" The man's question made her even more embarrassed and at a loss. From the beginning to the end, she lowered her head, not knowing how to respond or what to do. The man chuckled and said, "What an idiot." Taking advantage of the situation, he took off her clothes and climbed onto her shoulders and neck. Then he moved his hands all the way down, carrying out a mysterious exploration. Yin Shirshir bit her lips. Her face was so hot that it was about to burn. He took off the gown on her body, and the beauty in front of him was almost unobstructed. She didn't know what to do, so she could only freeze and let him explore her body. When he went deeper, she couldn't help but feel a little helpless, so she couldn't help but tense up. The man, his evil charming smile, loved her so shy appearance, kissed her lips, pried open her lips, with a strong offensive, all the way to the deep invasion. She involuntarily moaned. When she came back to her senses, She realized that she had involuntarily moaned. However, she felt even more ashamed and covered her mouth. It was a little embarrassing. Why couldn't she hold it in? How could she? The more she thought about it, the more embarrassed she felt. I like it. He kissed her soothingly. I like your voice. You're not allowed to suppress yourself. Yin Shersher pursed her lips, but she also noticed the tension in the man's voice. Chapter 1828. That was the place where he was most sensitive. When she kissed him just now, this action was more like a silent provocation. The man felt an electric shock spread all the way to his limbs and bones, especially since the wedding. He had been enduring himself until now. There were some things that did not need to be secretive anymore. It was better to be more direct. Thus he nimbly took off her gown. To him, the current her was even more stunning than when she was in her gown. His body also started to become excited. In this position he took possession of her. From the initial gentle invasion, until later he could no longer hold himself back and gradually became fierce. Muyaja! She became more and more uneasy from his fierce attack, and could not help but softly call out his name. Her weak voice was like a kitten's, but she did not know that this made it harder for him to restrain himself. The emotions that he had suppressed for a long time were like stormy waves, instantly drowning her. In the midst of the extreme joy, she was a little helpless. In the midst of his emotions, he could not help but lean close to her ear and bite her earlobe, murmuring her name over and over again. Shersher, he gently called out her name. His charming voice made people unable to resist him. She closed her eyes and allowed herself to sink into it. When she fell into it, she was drenched in sweat. Gradually, she could not take it anymore. She panted and her breathing lost its frequency and became a little hurried. Don't slow down. She was a little unable to bear his overbearing possession, but she could not muster any strength at all. She could only beg for mercy weakly. Unfortunately, her pleas for mercy did not enter his ears at all, and he allowed his senses to continue to work on her. When it ended, she finally could not take it anymore and collapsed in his arms. Her entire body was soft and powerless. She nestled in his arms and panted hurriedly like a patient who could not breathe on her own. He looked at her and felt that her current appearance was both cute and funny. It was just one round, but she was so disappointing that she collapsed. He really did not know what to say about her. Didn't I tell you to train more? You're so weak. He scolded her in dissatisfaction, but his tone couldn't hide the adoration. She was panting, but her entire body was in a daze. Whatever he said, she couldn't hear a single word as she focused on regulating her own breathing. Muyaja didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He also couldn't bear to torment her anymore. He hugged her and fell on the bed, constantly stroking her back. He knew that she probably didn't sleep well last night. That was why he was in such a sorry state when dealing with matters of the heart. He hugged her, his fingers going through her hair as he pulled her head into his embrace. Even if there was a part of his body that was not satisfied yet, he could not bear to take her anymore. There was no hurry to continue once she recovered her strength. He couldn't torment her too much. The next time this stupid woman saw him, he was afraid that her legs would go weak. Under his comforting words, her breathing gradually calmed down. She leaned against his chest and closed her eyes. Just now, for a moment, she felt that her brain was short of oxygen and her entire body was floating in the clouds. This man, in this aspect, was extremely strong. He always had the ability to torment her until she fell apart. At that time, he was sitting back and admiring her seductive posture. The more he looked, the more he couldn't bear to let go. Chapter 1829. Suddenly, there was the sound of footsteps outside the door. Muyaja was alerted and furrowed his brows. Then there was a knock on the door. Xiao Yichen's voice passed through the door and into their ears. "Daddy, Mommy, are you there?" Hearing little Yichen's voice, Yin Shersher was jolted back to her senses from her exhaustion. She was greatly startled. Before they could react, a click was heard. It seemed to be the sound of the door opening from the outside. Seeing that no one was responding, Muichen actually swaggered through the door. "Daddy, Mommy." Muichen had already walked through the door with a confused look on his face. When Yin Shersher realized that the child had already walked through the door, she was so shocked that she wanted to scream. Oh my God! Why wasn't the door locked? Muyaja, on the other hand, was extremely calm as he pulled the blanket over her body. He, on the other hand, elegantly covered himself with his suit jacket. He was considered fully armed. He didn't make a sound, but he didn't expect that Muyi-chan didn't walk in at all. The room was divided into two areas. One was the walk-in closet and the living room, and the other was the bedroom. The two areas were separated by an arched door, and the bedroom was at the innermost area. Therefore, when Muyi-chan walked in, he first walked around the living room. When he didn't see anyone, he said, "Oh," and turned to leave the room. How could this naive little fellow have guessed that at this moment his daddy and mommy were having some kind of friendly conversation? However, due to his good upbringing, he didn't take another step inside. After all, he had been taught etiquette since he was young. When he entered someone's room, without the owner's permission, he would never step into the bedroom. Therefore, he didn't even walk into the bedroom. When he saw that there was no one in the living room, he went straight out. He closed the door on his way out. Yin Shishi's heart finally settled down. It seemed like it was a false alarm. After being frightened by Muyi-chan, he broke out in a cold sweat. Muyaja lowered his eyes and saw that she was still in shock. He couldn't help but laugh and pinched her cheek. "This one won't be scared? What a coward." "You." Yin Shishi glared at him angrily. He still had the nerve to say that. She was so angry that she was speechless. She hit him on the shoulder and said coquettishly, "Why didn't you remember to lock the door when you came in?" "I forgot." When he opened the door and saw her back, he was completely mesmerized. How could he remember that the door was unlocked? He was only looking at her. Naturally, he couldn't care about anything else. "You forgot." Yin Shishi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. If the child came in just now and saw such a scene, how awkward would that be? His casual remark about forgetting to lock the door gave her quite a scare. Muyaja, however, did not seem to realize his mistake at all. "It's fine. He doesn't know." Yin Shishi was speechless. This son of his didn't know anything about the matters between men and women. If he walked in and saw them, he would probably only blush, but he wouldn't know what they were doing. Yin Shishi didn't know what to say to him. "Go and lock the door," she urged. Muyaja smiled playfully and caressed her burning cheek. "Lock the door? Why? You still want to?" Chapter 1830. However, Muyaja wanted to tease her. Therefore, even though her cheeks were unreasonably hot, he still said, "If that's not what you mean, then what do you mean? Aren't you just worried that if the door isn't locked, you'll be disturbed again?" Yin Shishi was embarrassed to death by him. She immediately pushed his shoulder and glared at him, but there was a hint of wanting to say something. "You're bullying me. This life can be considered to be in your hands." She was angry, but the corners of her lips gradually lifted into a smile. She was at her wit's end when it came to this man's occasional bad taste. It was obvious that he was making fun of her. However, she was very thin-skinned, so she couldn't do anything to him. He hugged her, but smiled. "What do you mean by your life is in my hands? You sound so wronged when you say that." "Isn't that so?" Yin Shishi pouted coquettishly. "All right. Whatever you say, it's the law." Muyaja hugged her and coaxed her softly, magnanimously not caring about her quick tongue. He got off the bed, went to the door and locked it. Yin Shishi's heart finally settled down. It seemed that if the door wasn't locked, she wouldn't feel safe. Muyaja turned around. As he moved, the suit on his body suddenly fell to the ground. In an instant, his perfect figure, which was like a sculpture of a god, was exposed to the air. But he didn't feel embarrassed at all, so he walked over in such a grand manner. Yin Shishi glanced at him. Her gaze fell on his golden ratio figure, which was comparable to an international model's. His sexy abs and mermaid line were filled with an extremely seductive aura. Especially that pair of strong and powerful arms, which made him even more beautiful and suffocating. As she looked, her face couldn't help but turn as red as blood. Even though the two of them were already considered intimate, at this moment, she still felt her face burning when she looked at his naked body. Muyaja saw that her deer-like gaze was fixed on him from beginning to end. The corners of his lips curled up slightly, but he smiled playfully. "Have you seen enough?" Yin Shishi was stunned. When she came back to her senses, she met his mischievous eyes. "You," she pursed her lips. You should put on your clothes. Wear clothes. Muyaja smiled wickedly. I thought you liked it. Seeing you staring at me like that, I thought you liked it. Muyaja. He was making fun of her again. Yin Shirshir was so angry that she was at a loss for words. In the end, she was so angry that she laughed. He walked forward and hugged her. At that moment, he was extremely greedy for this brief moment of warmth between the two of them. The two of them fooled around on the bed for a while. Yin Shirshir was tossed around by him until she was exhausted. As a result, she actually fell asleep in his arms. Muyaja saw that she was so tired that she fell asleep. He didn't want to disturb her. He folded the quilt for her, kissed her forehead, and left the room. At this moment it was already close to evening. When Muyaja walked out of the room, Lu Jinyu and Jiangshen had already been waiting for him at the door for a long time. When they saw that he was fully dressed and looked energetic, the tacit understanding between the brothers made them immediately feel the subtle changes in his body at this moment. It seemed that boss and sister-in-law had returned to the room, and must have had a good time. Chapter 1831. In his impression, Muyaja had always been an ascetic man. Little did he know that his boss was actually a man who was passionate on the inside. On the surface he looked dull, but deep down he was still very ahem. It could only be understood, only understood. Jiangshen put aside these random thoughts and walked up to him. He then whispered a few words into his ear. Upon hearing this, Muyaja nodded and pursed his thin lips slightly. There was a medical center in the castle that was set up for emergencies. When he was preparing for the engagement ceremony, he had considered the possibility of an emergency, so he specially deployed a medical team from the island. He did not expect it to come in handy. At this moment, Mu Linfeng was in a rather bad mood. When Muyaja arrived, Mu Shumin was lying on the bed with a pale and lifeless face. His face was unbearably swollen because of the blood clots, especially the corners of his eyes and mouth, which required several stitches. Although the wound would heal, it would inevitably leave a scar, and there was a risk of disfigurement. It was said that Mu Shumin had a few broken ribs, and his nose bridge was also broken. Gong Jie's subordinates were vicious and merciless. They did not hold back when they attacked, and it was obvious that they wanted to kill her. Muyaja had the ability to stop him, but he did not do so. Mu Shumin could not blame anyone for his current state. His mouth had offended someone he should not have, so who could he blame? When Mu Linfeng saw him, his heart was in a mess and he had nowhere to vent his anger. When he saw a certain man appear in front of him with a stern expression, Mu Linfeng felt that his dignity was being challenged. You still have the cheek to come here? Muyaja sneered and did not give her any face when he spoke. I didn't want to come over, but today is my engagement. Who would want to come to the ward and bring bad luck upon themselves? You. Mu Linfeng was so angry that he was at a loss for words. His face was extremely ashen, but after taking a deep breath, a cold smile appeared on his face. Haha. Good, very good. You little rascal. Why didn't I realize that you were so capable before? Today, he and Mu Shumin had rushed over with the intention of watching a joke. Initially, when he heard that Muyaja wanted to hold an engagement ceremony on the island, he thought it was ridiculous. Hence, his attitude was extremely contemptuous. It seemed that this brat really wanted to rebel. He actually stole the funds from the company's account and held this engagement without alerting the Mu group. It looked like he had turned a deaf ear to his words. Under Mu Linfeng's orders, Mu Shumin even went to check the financial group's account, but in the end, she made a huge blunder. Muyaja had never used any funds in the Mu group's accounts. Most of the funds were from the financial groups. It was surprising that Muyaja did not use a single cent from the family's accounts for such a big matter. Initially, when he said that he wanted to marry Yin Shirshir, Mu Linfeng was furious and said that if he had the ability to get married, he should not use a single cent of the Mu family's capital. Muyaja agreed immediately, but on the surface, he seemed to be dismissive. Mu Linfeng thought that he was just boasting. Did he think that he could hold a grand wedding on his own after leaving the Mu group? Chapter 1832. Thus, Mu Linfeng did not think too much about it at the time. He only thought that his young and hot-blooded nephew was just being impulsive. At most, he would only be fierce with his words and talk on paper. How would he have the capital to hold such a grand wedding if he did not use the company's account? However, when they rushed over to take a look, Mu Linfeng and Mu Xiumin were so angry that they almost vomited blood. Without using the Mu family's capital, this engagement was not only held in a dignified manner, but it was also grand and sensational. How did his nephew do it? How did he manage to arrange such a grand event, and even invite so many important guests? How did he manage to make an engagement ceremony that was even grander than the formal weddings of some of the rich and powerful families? How did he manage to do it? Mu Linfeng couldn't help but feel suspicious. Without using the company's account, how did he manage to make the ceremony so luxurious and dignified? Mu Linfeng was suspicious at once. In fact, although he was old and no longer as spirited and vigorous as when he was young, it didn't mean that he was stupid. All these years, be it Mu Yaja nurtured his power outside or set up his own businesses, even if he kept the Mu family under wraps and didn't leak any clues, it didn't mean that Mu Linfeng wasn't vigilant at all. He already had his suspicions long ago. Even if Mu Yaja's businesses couldn't compete with the Mu Group's power for the time being, with his ability and capability, he was still young and capable. With his plans for himself, it wouldn't be long before he replaced the Mu Group in a few years' time. Moreover, in recent years, his backbone had gradually shifted toward his private businesses. He even grafted many resources that originally belonged to the Mu Group to the businesses under his name. He vaguely realized that this fellow had some selfish motives. However, he couldn't find any evidence. Moreover, he was preoccupied with handling the Mu family's affairs and didn't have the energy to keep up. He thought that as long as this fellow didn't go overboard, he could pretend that he didn't know. Moreover, he didn't find anything fishy. One thing he was certain of was that, in this aspect, Mu Yaja had handled it flawlessly and had managed to hide it from his discerning eyes. Thus, Mu Linfeng only had suspicions and didn't have any concrete evidence. However, today's engagement banquet once again aroused his suspicions. He had originally come with the intention of watching a joke, but in the end, he was ruthlessly slapped by Mu Yaja. Mu Linfeng only felt his old face burning from the slap, which was extremely embarrassing. Mu Yaja's engagement banquet today was truly an honor for his family. He had never seen anyone's engagement banquet on such a scale. Even in the world, only the world-shocking British royal wedding of the century could compare. However, it was not easy to compare a wedding and an engagement. Perhaps, this kid's wedding in the future would be even more sensational than this engagement banquet. It might even attract the attention of the world. With his temperament, he would probably do so. Mu Linfeng, on the other hand, was perplexed. He did not know where the young man got his strength from to be able to do this. Chapter 1833. Could it be that this brat had gone to the extent of borrowing money to support this event? Judging by the looks of it, this engagement banquet could not have been held without spending tens of millions of yuan. Could it be that he had owed tens of millions of yuan just to fulfill a promise and for this woman? However, he was not in the mood to care about this at the moment. The biggest surprise at this engagement banquet was that mysterious man. Mu Xiumin was ruthlessly taught a lesson at the engagement banquet. However, Mu Linfeng knew that this had nothing to do with anyone else. It was purely Mu Xiumin's own cheap mouth. Mu Linfeng admitted that he had always felt that Mu Xiumin was not a calm person. She did things in a high-profile manner, especially when she spoke fiercely and aggressively. It was easy for her to cause trouble from her mouth. Maybe it was because she had always been the core member of the Mu clan, so she was used to looking down on others. After all, the Mu clan had a prominent position in the capital. It could be said that the Mu clan was a prestigious clan that could cover the sky with one hand. Which clan had the ability to compete with the Mu clan? However, one had to remember that there was always someone better out there. It was not that there was no one who was more powerful than her. Today he had really been slapped in the face. While Mu Linfeng was furious, he also felt that he had been utterly humiliated by Mu Xiumin. However, that brat was a little too arrogant. His words of flattening the Mu family overnight still left a lingering fear in his heart. What kind of monstrous power did this brat have to be able to say such words? Mu Linfeng was attentive and heard that sentence. I want her life. She bullied my sister and deserved to die. Otherwise, Do you think that the Gong family can be bullied by any Tom, Dick, or Harry? Mu family. Who do you think you are? Do you think that the Mu family can do whatever you want and bully others? I'd like to see if the Mu family or the Gong family is more capable. The Gong family? Mu Linfeng was stunned at that moment. He could tell that this young man's features were similar to Yin Shishir's, and that they were related by blood. The two of them were probably siblings and had a close relationship. However, this man's self-introduction and provocation of the Mu family's reputation left him in a state of shock. The Gong family? Mu Linfeng knew of such a family. The Gong family of North America was a huge Chinese family that controlled a world-renowned arms group. Although he was unwilling to admit it, the Gong family's power was more impressive than the Mu family's. The Mu group was powerful because it had the support of Juanfeng. It had been established for 100 years, and its roots were deeply rooted. However, the Mu family's power and influence. The Gong family was a huge family that controlled the war situation of the entire world. No matter who was involved in the Gong family's internal affairs, they would not take the Mu group seriously. However, this brat's of course. Could it be the Gong family that had a thunderous reputation? That meant, Yin Shishir is related to the Gong family. Mu Linfeng's SS if they offended the Gong family, it might not be a good thing for Mu group. Who is that man? Mu Linfeng questioned him. Who are you talking about? The man who gave the order to beat Shuman into such a miserable state. Who else could I be talking about? Chapter 1834. Mu Yaja smirked. As you can see, that man has a powerful background. Auntie has offended him. Not only did she suffer today, but her life may also be in danger in the future. I can only hope that he doesn't take this matter to heart. Given that rascal's character, he'll bear grudges against anyone who touches his sister. Mu Linfeng's heart skipped a beat. Even he said so. It seemed that the man's identity was as he had guessed. It seemed that he was indeed from the Gong family. It seemed that the feud between the Gongs and the Mus was unavoidable. At the thought of this, Mu Linfeng suddenly felt a little resentful. This Mu Shuman was always stirring up trouble for him. Usually he could ignore those small fries, but this time, she had offended a big shot. How could he not be angry? Now that Mu Shuman was still unconscious in bed, she did not know how big of a mess she had gotten into. In the end, would he not have to take responsibility for it? However, did Mu Linfeng not think about it? Could he really do it? What puzzled him the most was when did Yin Shishir get in touch with the Gongs? Was she not the Yin family's adopted daughter? Could it be? Was she an illegitimate daughter of the Gongs? This was not impossible. Mu Linfeng was no stranger to the Gong family. Speaking of which, the Gong and Mu families had some history with each other. The head of the Gongs, Gong Xiaoying, had some personal grudges with the Mus. Mu Linfeng also had some inkling of the past between Gong Xiaoying and Mu Sheng. Hence, the Gongs were an extremely fearsome existence to the Mus. Could it be that Yin Shishir was Mu Wanru and Gong Xiaoying's daughter? At this thought, he felt even more restless. Mu Yaja glanced at Mu Shuman and expressionlessly said, "When she wakes up, second uncle, take her away from here. Don't let her spoil our mood." His words were a little hurtful. The corners of Mu Linfeng's lips twitched violently. He looked at him sharply like an eagle and sneered. "Are you chasing us away?" "It's not that chasing is so unpleasant to hear. It's just that it's a little inappropriate for you guys to appear here. Now that the Gongs are here, second uncle, don't tell me you want to make a big scene? You." Mu Linfeng slammed the table and stood up, pointing at him and scolding. "You be ****. Which side are you on exactly? No matter what, she's still your aunt. It's fine if you don't care when she's being bullied right under your nose. But now that she's injured, not only do you not care, you even chase us away. Is this appropriate?" "I'm not on anyone's side. He only stood by his lady. Whoever bullied his wife's wife was his enemy. On the contrary, he was happy to see Gong Jie make a move on Mu Shuman. Given his status, it was indeed inappropriate for him to attack Mu Shuman. Gong Jie was different though. Mu Yaja sneered. "Even if he doesn't do anything, I won't sit back and do nothing. Aunt has gone overboard today. Since she spoke too fast, she should pay the price, shouldn't she?" Mu Linfeng was speechless. Chapter 1835. Second uncle, you're being too courteous. However, you don't have to give me any face. You just have to think of a way to protect yourself. When the time comes, it'll be fine as long as you don't drag me down. Mu Yaja left after saying that. He had only come over to check if Mu Shumin was still breathing. He had thought that Mu Shumin would be on the verge of death after Gong Jie's men had hit her so hard. However, he did not expect her to be so tough. In that case, there was no need for him to stay any longer. It wasn't that he was cold and heartless. He was indifferent to everyone in the Mu family. Whether they lived or died, it had nothing to do with him. Being able to make the scene look presentable was already the greatest dignity he had left for the Mu family. Mu Linfeng watched Mu Yaja leave. Looking at his cold and threatening back, he suddenly felt that he could not keep this chess piece around. In the past, he had thought that he could still keep this rascal around if he could make him repent and cut ties with Yin Shirshir. After all, in the entire Mu family, Mu Yaja's talent and ability were unparalleled. His position was also unshakable. Mu Linfeng had originally wanted to hand the Mu group over to him, so that he could achieve more glory and create a bigger empire. Mu Linfeng's original plan was to make use of him to expand his territory and expand the Mu group's territory. Mu Linfeng's original plan had been well thought out. However, Mu Yaja's attitude now made him bitterly disappointed. The chess piece that he had painstakingly nurtured now had his own thoughts and opinions. Most importantly, as he continued to become more powerful, he gradually began to go against his ideals. This was not something that Mu Linfeng wanted to see. Mu Linfeng was worried that if this continued, the Mu group would fall into Mu Yaja's hands. If this rascal had selfish motives and started to transfer the Mu group's resources to his own businesses, then the Mu group would be emptied sooner or later. He might do that. He could see that the rascal was very ambitious. It might not be a good thing for the Mu group to fall into his hands. The Mu empire that he had worked so hard for so many years might end up in someone else's pocket. The foundation that he had worked so hard for would end up in someone else's pocket in the end. In the end, it would all be for naught. Wouldn't that be a joke? No one knew a son better than his father. Although Mu Yaja was not his biological son, he had nurtured him for so long that he had some understanding of his character and methods. Thus, Mu Linfeng had no choice but to consider grooming the next successor. After much thought, he could not come up with a name list. Although the Mu group was huge and had plenty of talented people, no matter how capable they were, they could not be compared to Mu Yaja and could not be mentioned in the same breath. Most of them were just jesters, and only a few of them were clear-headed. However, compared to Mu Yaja's business talent, they were still barely passable. Mu Linfeng had once predicted that there would not be a second person as brilliant as Mu Yaja in the Mu family within 100 years. Mu Linfeng was heartbroken at the thought of the person he had painstakingly nurtured going against him. He wanted to vomit blood, but he could not voice his bitterness. However, there was no other choice now. Mu Linfeng could only leave with Mu Shumin dejectedly. Chapter 1836. Along the way, Lu Jinyu could not help but shudder at the thought of how Mu Yaja had argued with Mu Linfeng earlier. "Chief, aren't you afraid that the old man will make things difficult for you if you keep arguing with him?" Lu Jinyu said half-jokingly. "That old man is probably worried that you're here to usurp the throne. He's probably going to start looking for ways to cultivate his power again. When that happens, the situation will be disadvantageous to you." Mu Yaja looked at him calmly and nonchalantly. "Are you kidding me?" Lu Jinyu was stunned. Mu Yaja said coldly, "Do I still need to be afraid of him now?" "But no buts." Mu Yaja interrupted him without allowing him to object. "I've already endured to the limit for today. Now that I've made my stand clear, that old man is just a salted fish struggling on his deathbed, even if he wants to salvage something. After using me for so long, now that I've made my stand clear, he'll definitely find a way out for himself. Unfortunately, it's too late for that now." He had long realized that Mu Linfeng's so-called treating him as his own was in fact for his own benefit. The so-called thinking for his sake and wanting to protect his position in the Mu group was just too nice to hear. In the end, it was just for his own benefit and to protect his empire. Mu Sheng was still around, so he had no choice but to restrain himself in order to preserve the family's reputation. However, once Mu Sheng's last breath was gone, he would definitely make a move. All this while, Mu Linfeng had indeed treated him as his own and nurtured him wholeheartedly. However, the so-called nurturing was nothing more than using him to strengthen the Mu group before kicking him out of the door and enjoying the fruits of his labor. There was no such thing in this world, though. He had been used for so long. It was time for him to retaliate. This war had just begun. Chief, don't worry. With us brothers around, we'll definitely serve you until the end, Lu Jinyu said with a smile. Mu Yaja's lips curled up, but his eyes were sharp as he revealed a confident smile. At night, there was going to be a bonfire dance party by the beach. The venue had already been set up. Thousands of tons of fireworks had been flown by air, and were now arranged in the venue. These fireworks were all custom-made. Mu Yaja had put in a lot of effort. Yin Shishir changed into a gown and held Mu Yaja's hand. When they arrived at the venue, Yu Yu and Gong Jie were fiddling with delicate fireworks. Uncle, I heard that when this firework is released, it will turn into a heart-shaped firework in the air, Yu Yu said in surprise. Gong Jie, on the other hand, had rarely come into contact with such things. Even though his career had always involved him dealing with gunpowder, he had never personally given up on fireworks. Hence, at this moment, he was fiddling with them like a curious child. Are you setting off fireworks? Gong Jie shook his head. Nope. Then I'll release the explosives. Yu. Yin Shishir stood at the side. She did not know whether to laugh or cry as she watched the comical conversation between her uncle and nephew. She was about to step forward when she heard someone calling her from behind. Shishir. Yin Shishir turned around and saw Xiao Shui and Jiang Li. Chapter 1837. You flatter me. Yin Shishir smiled and held her hand. Sizing her up, she pursed her lips and smiled. You don't look bad in this outfit either. I heard that there's going to be a bonfire party at your engagement party, so I pestered my husband to buy this outfit for me. It's Chanel's new winter collection, and it costs a few thousand yuan. My husband's heart ached when he saw it. Jiang Li smiled shyly, but she felt quite happy when Yin Shishir praised her. Yin Shishir said, Your husband dotes on you a lot. What? I was the one who pestered him to buy it. He usually doesn't spend more than this when he buys me clothes. Jiang Li exaggeratedly raised a finger and sighed helplessly. It's rare for him to spend so much money, so I really envy you a lot. There are times when I really envy you. Look, why are you so lucky to be able to meet such a good man who pampers you like a little princess? As she spoke, she glanced at Mu Yaja with a blushing face. For some reason, she did not dare to look straight at this man who was as handsome as a god. Mu Yaja laughed. I only have one wife. If I don't pamper her like a princess, what if she runs away in anger? His humor made Jiang Li laugh heartily. At the same time, she was even more envious of Yin Shishir's good fortune. However, this envy was different from the jealousy of Yin Qinli and Yin Qingmiao. She, too, was sincerely wishing them well. Hence she praised, Your husband is very handsome today too. The two of you look really compatible standing together. Mu Yaja smiled gracefully. Thank you. Jiang Li had a good impression of him due to his decent behavior. Compared to her slovenly husband, it was really infuriating to compare oneself to others. Xiao Shui, who was standing at the side, said, Sure, Jiang Li has been infatuated with your husband today. You don't know this, but during the ceremony at noon, she couldn't take her eyes off your man. That saliva of hers. TSK. Yin Shishir chuckled. Really? Jiang Li panicked and grabbed Xiao Shui's hand. Hey, don't mess with me. Since when did I drool? If Shishir hears this, she might misunderstand. All right. I'm just joking. Our Shishir knows my character. She won't take it seriously. Xiao Shui looked at Yin Shishir and asked, Am I right, Shishir? All right. You're the worst. Jiang Li gets shy easily. Don't tease her anymore. Yin Shishir asked, Why didn't you bring the child with you? When Jiang Li heard this, she frowned and said, I'm so angry just thinking about it. The child is so disappointing. I wanted to bring him over, but that guy kept wanting to play with you. But who would have thought that he would have a fever right before he set off? Recently, the temperature has been very low. Her fever is at 38 degrees Celsius. I have no choice but to leave her in the care of my mother-in-law. I can only do it myself. It's all right. When he recovers, he can play with you. There will be a chance in the future. Jiangli smiled and said a little embarrassedly, "That little guy seems to like you. He kept telling me that you is pretty, smart, and knows how to take care of people. He even said that he wants to marry you when he grows up. This child is so mischievous. He's so young, but he's already in love." Yu listened from the side, but he looked up helplessly. He didn't want to get married. Chapter 1838. Xiao Yichen was squatting on the ground, playing with 2 fireworks sticks in his hands. When he heard the adults teasing each other, he could not help but perk up his ears to listen. Jiangli looked at Yu and Xiao Yichen with envy in her heart. Shirshir was really lucky. She had a husband who doted on her, power, and 2 cute little fellows who were as obedient and sensible as elves. She was really a winner in life. She was very envious, but there were some people and some things that could not be envied. Yin Shirshir smiled as she listened. She could tell that Jiang Lixing's cute little girl liked Yu very much. She could tell from the time they were together at the Fairy Tale Valley amusement park. This little girl was always following Yu and calling him Big Brother. She was chattering nonstop and would not stop pestering him. Actually, she was more reliant on Yu. Although Yu was only 7 years old, he was more mature and sensible than many teenagers. He knew how to take care of people and gave people a very reliable feeling. When Yu was very young, she paid attention to the child's upbringing. Hence, under her training, Yu was very sensible, especially towards girls and young children. He was very gentlemanly and knew how to give in to others. The children all liked him. Among the children, he was especially famous as the king of the children. Hence she smiled and said, "He's a child. He's so young, so how would he know about love? He doesn't even know what marriage means." In the children's world, love is a very pure thing without any impurities. Although our Yu is 7 years old, he's always very sensible and considerate. He's very gentlemanly to girls, so many girls like to play with him. However, this child doesn't seem to like playing with other children. He's been very clingy and dependent on me since he was young. That's because mommy is the person I love the most. Of course, I want to stick to mommy, Yu said self-righteously. When Xiao Yichen saw this, he immediately puffed out his chest and expressed his attitude. "I love mommy too." Jiangli was amused by the 2 children's innocent words. She looked at Yin Shirshir enviously and said, "Shirshir, I'm so envious of you. These 2 children are really too cute. Why don't I exchange with you and let Yu be my son and Qian be your daughter?" Before Yin Shirshir, as if he was facing a great enemy. He pouted and said pitifully, "I don't want that. I only mommy." Yin Shirshir. It was obviously a joke to tease the child, but this child actually took it seriously. Jiangli, on the other hand, felt awkward when she heard this. Her lips twitched as she forced a smile. Squatting down, she reached out to hug Yu in disappointment and deliberately tried to curry favor with him. "Yu, can you be Auntie's godson?" Yu, on the other hand, hugged his mother's waist tightly, unwilling to be hugged by her no matter what. Jiangli was both embarrassed and amused. She looked up at Yin Shirshir and teased, "You're such a clingy child. He doesn't even want me to hug him." Mommy. Chapter 1839. Yin Shirshir was amused by him. Because she was wearing a gown, she couldn't squat down and carry him. She could only lean over and pat his little head gently. She comforted him and said, Yu, Auntie is just joking with you. How could Mommy bear to abandon you? You're Mommy's baby. You're Mommy's favorite little sweetheart. Mommy can't bear to abandon you." "Okay." Yu nodded and stuck out his tongue mischievously. He was so cute. Xiao Yichen ridiculed him from the side. It was obvious that this guy was saying sweet nothings on purpose to win Mommy's favor. Jiangli pretended to be aggrieved and tugged at his sleeve. "Yu, don't take it seriously. Auntie is just joking with you. Yu, don't be angry. Auntie is teasing you because she likes you. All right. Yu, don't be angry. Don't be angry." Yu thought to himself, "I'm not angry, but can you not tug at my sleeve? I don't like you." In his heart, Jiangli was already on par with the child abductor auntie. Children didn't like such jokes from adults. What child exchange? He didn't want that. He only had one mommy. No one could take her away from him. Jiangli looked at Yu Yu and said enviously, I assure you, you're so lucky. Look at your son. He's so obedient. That daughter of mine, let alone being easily coaxed, even a lollipop would foolishly run away with someone else. You can't lose your son. Look, he's so clingy to you. No one can coax him away. Yu Yu sticks to me the most. In the past, there were colleagues who joked about this. At that time, Yu Yu was still young. She was so scared that she threw herself into my arms and cried loudly. Many people tried to comfort her in a flurry, but they managed to. Yin Shirsha recalled that when Yu Yu was 4 years old, one of her colleagues saw how cute Yu Yu was and wanted to carry him home to play with. Hence, she deliberately lied to Yu Yu that she wanted to bring him home to be her son. Yu Yu was so scared that she broke down and cried. In the end, her eyes were red and swollen. She was extremely sad. Jiangli continued. Then Yu Yu, are you willing to be my son-in-law? Son-in-law. Yu Yu pretended not to understand. She widened her eyes in confusion, but the image of Qianqian's unreasonable behavior appeared in her mind. She was speechless. That's right. In the future, you'll be my son-in-law and marry Qianqian. Are you willing? Jiangli teased him. Yu Yu immediately shook his head like a rattledrum. He did not want that. That Qianqian was unreasonable and arrogant. He did not want such an uncute wife. Jiangli's expression became awkward. She could not get out of this embarrassing situation in front of everyone. She felt that her daughter was being despised by Yu Yu. She forced a smile and asked, why not? Because I want to stay by mommy's side for the rest of my life. I don't want to get married. A naive and childish remark cleverly dispelled the awkward atmosphere and made the guests burst into laughter. It had to be said that Yu Yu's IQ was extremely high. His EQ was also much higher than many adults. He knew how to save face for others. When he saw that Jiangli was embarrassed, he deliberately said such childish words to tell her that he was not willing because he wanted to stay by mommy's side for the rest of his life. Jiangli was laughing in her heart, but her face was full of joy. This child is really smart. Haha, this little fellow. Chapter 1840. Even though she felt that it might not be a good thing for her child to stay by her side for the rest of his life, the child would eventually grow up. Even though she had raised him painstakingly, she still wished him well and hoped that there would be a considerate girl by his side. Even though she could not bear to part with Yu Yu, she would not tie him down for the rest of his life. It was said that when a child grew up and a girl was about to get married, a father would feel as if a knife was being twisted in his heart, as if he had fallen out of love. Similarly, when a boy was about to get married, a mother would feel as if she was facing a great enemy. However, when the time came, she would still hope that her son would be happy. Our Qianqian likes you a lot. She has always said that she wants to marry you when she grows up. Jiangli continued to encourage him. Yu Yu, it's good that you marry our Qianqian. Think about it, you will definitely get married in the future. Even though you said that you want to stay by your mommy's side for the rest of your life, boys will eventually have to start their own families and careers when they grow up. Even if you say that you don't want her now, who knows when a girl beckons you with her finger when you grow up? You might not want your mommy anymore. When that time comes, you will also have a wife. How will you still care about your mommy? However, Yu Yu said mischievously, no, I won't. Mommy is my precious baby. How can I not want my mommy? The first criterion for me to marry a wife is to be filial to my mommy. Otherwise, I won't want her no matter how pretty she is. Ha ha ha. I didn't expect such a young child to be so filial. He's not simple. Yes. Most of the children nowadays are very willful. Yu Yu is so sensible. It seems that Shirsha has taught him well. Xiao Yichen added. I don't want to get married in the future either. I just want to stay by mommy's side until we grow old. When mommy is old, I want to hold her hand and take care of her. Jiangli was so jealous when she heard this. She thought about her spoiled daughter. She was so arrogant and willful. Not only was she immature, but she would also say things like, Mommy is so mean. Mommy doesn't dote on Qianqian at all. Qianqian doesn't want mommy anymore. compared to you use willful words. She was so envious that her eyes almost turned red. Thinking of this, she suddenly felt a little resentful and said, Sure. Let me pinch you. You're so lucky. If I had 2 such sensible and obedient sons, I would wake up laughing even in my dreams. That daughter of mine only knows how to make me angry, but she's not sensible at all. Sigh, everyone says that girls are more sensible than boys, but now this notion has really been shattered. Xiao Shui chimed in from the side. Sure is very lucky. Look, she has such cute Xiao Bao and such a handsome husband. I can't be envious. Jiangli joked. Sure, don't you know how lucky you are? I must cherish the happiness I have now. A man as handsome as your husband who knows how to take care of you and dote on you is rare nowadays. You have to work harder to tie his heart down. If you don't keep a close eye on him, such a handsome husband will be taken away by another woman. You'll cry yourself to death. As soon as she finished speaking, the room fell into an awkward silence. It had to be said that Jiang Li's words were truly inappropriate. Chapter 1841. This person had just gotten engaged, yet she said such a thing. What did she mean by don't let other women lead you away? How could she make such an inappropriate joke in such an occasion? Jiang Li was not very knowledgeable. She usually stayed at home to take care of the children, and the people she interacted with were mostly young mothers. As a result, she lacked social skills. Hence, her low EQ was vividly reflected in this sentence. These words made Yun Shishir feel rather awkward. Even though she knew that Jiang Li did not have any ill intentions, and the subjective meaning of her words was to express her envy of her good fortune, it still made others feel uncomfortable. Xiao Shui also felt awkward. She did not expect Jiang Li to make such a joke. Hence, she tugged at Jiang Li's sleeve awkwardly. Jiang Li belatedly realized that her words were somewhat inappropriate in such a situation. Thus, she also felt embarrassed. Mu Yaja smiled elegantly and suddenly said, My wife is very good. Everyone was stunned and looked at him. However, as he smiled, he lowered his gaze and gazed tenderly at Yun Shishir's side profile. The tenderness in his eyes seemed to be able to squeeze water out of them. Even though he hadn't said anything, everyone in the room was caught off guard and fed a mouthful of dog food. Although the words "my wife is very good" did not have any flowery words, the adoration in them was obvious. Mu Yaja said casually, With my wife around, no other woman can enter my eyes. His eyes were filled with her. His heart was filled with her. Who else could there be in his heart? Mu Yaja was not joking when he said this. It was from the bottom of his heart. Jiang Li was so envious that her eyes were sore. How romantic. Thinking about her husband, who was like a block of wood, when had he ever said such gentle and romantic words to her? Not to mention, I love you. Even when they quarreled, he had never coaxed her or compromised. Jiang Li suddenly stopped talking. At this moment, she felt aggrieved. Perhaps it was because other people's happiness was too dazzling that she felt envious and jealous. Yun Shishir smiled when she heard this. She turned her head and gazed at him gently. Then, she curved her lips and whispered in a voice that only he could hear. My husband is also very good. You know what? I've never envied anyone when I'm with you. Perhaps, there was nothing more blissful than this. She had never envied anyone else for being able to hold his hand and be with him. Therefore, she felt that she was the happiest woman in the world to have him. Yin Yecheng, who was standing at the side, was so touched that his eyes were about to tear up. He rubbed his eyes with his handkerchief, but he couldn't suppress the excitement in his heart. Perhaps before today, he still had some doubts about this man's feelings. Did this man really love his daughter? Was he really sincere to his daughter? Could his daughter really be happy with him? There were so many question marks that he couldn't sleep well on the night before the engagement banquet. However, when he heard Mu Yaja's words, his heart immediately calmed down. Chapter 1842. His greatest wish was for his daughter to be happy. Now that he had fulfilled one of his wishes, he felt a sense of relief. Yin Yeho was also very emotional. He held his brother's hand and said happily, Brother, you're so lucky. You can rest assured that Shishir has met such a good man. Yes. Yin Yecheng was still touched. Looking at Yin Shishir, he vaguely recalled the first time they met. When she was 9 years old, he saw her for the first time in the welfare home. At that time, She was skinny and tattered from head to toe. He could tell that her clothes were old and dirty. In the dormitory, she was huddled alone in a corner, hugging her knees helplessly. She looked around vigilantly at her surroundings with a blank and frightened gaze. When she saw him, she shrank into an even smaller ball in fear. She was like an injured animal, isolated and helpless. At that time, that pair of hurt and tired eyes touched him all of a sudden. Because of that fragile gaze, he felt a stab in his heart. At that moment, he decided to adopt this child without hesitation. Even if Li Qin protested, he did not care at all. When he brought her home, he doted on and protected her, treating her as if she was his own. Gradually, a father-daughter relationship developed between them. Even though there was no blood bond between them, he had never treated her as an outsider. She relied on him. He also doted on her like his own daughter. Humans were soft-hearted. Yin Na was insensible and disobedient, always making him angry and furious. Yin Shirshir, on the other hand, cherished this hard-won kinship very much. When Yin Shirshir was young, she adopted a stray dog, although it was later thrown away by Li Qin. This dog was very playful and adorable. Yin Shirshir brought it home because she pitied it when she saw the children bullying it. Perhaps it was because it had been homeless since it was young, but after it was adopted, it was very obedient and never caused any trouble. Perhaps it was because it had been homeless and lonely for too long that it cherished this warmth more than its own life. Yin Shirshir must be the same. It was precisely because she had been homeless and helpless when she was young that she wanted to work hard to protect her family when she had a home. He had never had it before, so he treasured it even more. Now she had grown up and was standing beside another man. Her eyes were filled with happiness and her smile was like a flower. Yin Yeqing, on the other hand, felt as if a lifetime had passed. She finally had a home of her own. He was happy for her. His beloved daughter had finally met the most important man in her life. Gong Jie stood silently by the side without any expression on his face. But when he saw the happy smile on Yin Shirshir's face, his heart was touched. At the banquet, guests kept coming up to them to offer their heartfelt blessings. Especially when the royal ministers, princes, princesses, and the country's president kissed her and gave her their blessings, Yin Shirshir was flattered. She disappointingly thought that she had only seen these big shots on TV. She did not expect to receive their blessings today. She silently thought to herself, "Can I ask them for their autographs?" If Yu knew what she was thinking, he would definitely hate her for failing to live up to his expectations. Just as everyone finished giving their blessings, Gong Jie suddenly walked towards her. Chapter 1843. What beautiful fireworks! Yin Shirshir held his arm and leaned on his shoulder. "Did you prepare all of this?" he asked her. "Do you like it?" "I like it. I like it so much. I really like it." Yin Shirshir was touched. "Thank you, Muyaja." He caught on to her faulty wording and raised his eyebrows in dissatisfaction. "What should you call me?" Her face was a little red. She pursed her lips and said embarrassedly, "Isn't it inappropriate to call you husband now?" "If you can't call me that now, how long are you going to wait? Are you going to wait until my hair turns white? Until you call me hubby?" Muyaja said half jokingly, half seriously. "The engagement party is already held. Are you still thinking of running away from the marriage?" Yin Shirshir pushed his shoulder shyly and said unhappily, "No. You know that's not what I meant." "Then what should you call me?" Muyaja patiently guided her. Yin Shirshir pouted, and then secretly looked at his meaningful expression. Suddenly, she plucked up her courage and called, "Hubby." "Good girl. My wife." He hugged her and kissed her amidst the fireworks and under everyone's stunned gazes. A bunch of fireworks slowly rose in the night sky and bloomed in the night sky. The romantic scene was frozen at this moment. It was nighttime. Muyaja was still entertaining the guests at the cocktail party. She returned to her room early and changed into her pajamas. Just as she was about to go to the bathroom to wash off her heavy makeup, her phone rang at the wrong time. She walked to the sofa in a light mood and hummed a song. She took out her phone from her bag and glanced at the screen. However, when she saw the name on the screen, her heart skipped a beat. Yin Shirshir could not help but feel suffocated. The words Gu Xingze continued to jump along with the ringtone. She actually felt inexplicably flustered. She glanced at the door before picking up the phone. Her heartbeat instantly sped up. Hello. Xingzi. Sure, where are you? On the other end, Gu Xingzi's heavy and tired voice suddenly rang out. I heard that you had something to do. So the roadshow that was originally scheduled for today was postponed. Gu Xingzi added. Only then did Yun Shishir remember that the production team of the Green Apple had entered the promotional period and had started to hold a nationwide roadshow. The premiere was originally scheduled for today, but because she had applied for leave, Lin Fengtian had to postpone it for a few days. Initially, she was quite embarrassed. Because of her personal matters, she had affected the entire crew's schedule. She felt extremely guilty. However, Lin Fengtian had said that she was the female lead, and that anyone could be absent except for her. Therefore, he did not hesitate to postpone the premiere. She was both grateful and guilty. However, Lin Fengtian laughed and said, no matter how important it is not as important as your life. It's fine. Hence, when she received the superstar's call, the first thing she felt was immense guilt. Yes. On the other end, Gu Xingzi said slowly in an eerily calm voice, I also heard that you are engaged. But you didn't invite me. Why? Gu Xingzi's slightly helpless voice made her heart beat even faster. He asked her why she did not invite him. Chapter 1844. It was because she was afraid. Afraid of his rejection. Afraid that Muyaja would be unhappy because of it. Yun Shishir remained silent, not knowing how to speak. On the other end, Gu Xingzi was silent for a while and said helplessly, I thought that I shouldn't be absent for such an important event. But I didn't receive your invitation. He suddenly took a deep breath and, as if he had used up all his energy, questioned her silently. Sure, maybe I don't have the chance to work hard, but are you so stingy to give me the chance to give you my blessings? Are you so stingy to give me the chance to give you my blessings? His voice was filled with bitterness. Her mind went blank at that moment. I thought that you didn't want to come. I thought you might not wish me well. Ha! He let out an indifferent laugh and said in a self-deprecating manner, I don't want to hear words that are too fake and insincere. You're too full of yourself. What do you mean by you thought? Suddenly he said again, if you're really happy, what reason do I have not to give you my blessings? If you're really happy, what reason do I have not to give up on you? The last 4 words seemed to have escaped from the roots of his teeth, as if he was gnashing his teeth. Yun Shishir was stunned. For a moment, her heart was in a mess and she didn't know how to respond to him. At least let me give up, right? At least let me see with my own eyes how happy you are before I can truly let go, right? Gu Xingzi suddenly broke down and said, at least give me a chance to give up, right? Yun Shishir bit her lower lip hard and continued to take deep breaths. The guilt in her heart was still gushing out like an overflowing flood. I'm sorry, Xingzi. Other than the words I'm sorry, she didn't know what else to say. Gu Xingzi, on the other hand, was upset and inexplicably anxious. He raised his voice slightly and said unhappily, I didn't call to hear you say those words. Yun Shishir pursed her lips, not knowing what to say. On the other end, Gu Xingzi fell into a long silence. Finally, he took a deep breath and said in a hoarse voice, listen, Shishir, I've let go. You should be satisfied. You don't have to be on guard against me anymore. I've let go. I won't love you anymore, and I won't pester you anymore, I'm calling to wish you a happy engagement. I don't have any other intentions, so you don't have to think too much. She smiled. Thank you, Xing. Before she could finish her sentence, the person on the other end hastily hung up the phone. Beep, beep, beep. A series of busy tones made her brain completely tense up. Yun Shishir's face froze, but she didn't react for a long time. In the Chengcheng apartment, Gu Xingzi fell onto the sofa. His grip loosened as if he had lost all his strength. His phone fell onto the floor. Bang! The phone fell onto the floor. A crack appeared on the screen and it broke. Initially, he hadn't called to wish her well. He actually wanted to ask her, why does it have to be Muyaja? Could it be that he couldn't do it? He could also give her happiness. But at the same time he asked himself, why does it have to be Yun Shishir? Why couldn't it be other women? Chapter 1845. In the end, he even forgot what he wanted to say. He gave her a fake blessing and hurriedly hung up the phone. If he had listened to her voice for one more second, he would have broken down. Gu Xingze raised his head and looked at the ceiling with a pair of hollow eyes. His gaze was numb, but it was as if he wanted to look through the ceiling. This was the first time he had fallen deeply in love with someone, but in the end, she had pushed him away. So this was what it felt like to be abandoned. Gu Xingze clenched his fists unwillingly. His fingernails dug into his palms, but his senses seemed to be numb and he could not feel any pain. Or perhaps the pain in his heart was so excruciating that his senses seemed to be numb, and he could not feel any pain at all. In the end, he had lost even the chance to work hard. Qin Zhou knocked on the door for a long time, but there was no response. He took out his keys and opened the door. When he entered, he saw that the living room was dark. He turned on the lights and saw Gu Xingze sitting on the sofa. He was expressionless and looked at the ceiling indifferently. His cell phone had fallen to the side and the screen was broken. He immediately walked up to him. "What's wrong?" Gu Xingze did not speak. Qin Zhou frowned. He had no idea what had happened. He frowned and teased him half-jokingly. "Why do you look like your soul has left your body? What happened?" "Nothing." Gu Xingze was inexplicably irritable. He glared at him and said impatiently, "What could have happened to me?" As he spoke, he stood up from the sofa and stumbled toward the table. He had not been able to sleep properly for 2 days and 2 nights. Hence he was in a daze. He supported himself on the table and held the cup with difficulty. His back view was inexplicably stiff and cold. Behind him, Qin Zhou was at a loss for a moment. Then he pursed his lips and said awkwardly, "You seem to be in a bad mood today?" "Shut up." Gu Xingze suddenly threw the cup on the floor and turned around angrily. "I told you to be quiet." Qin Zhou was rather shocked. This seemed to be the first time she had been so angry at him since they met. In the past, although Xingzhe's personality was a little cold, even if he was in a bad mood, he would quietly close himself up from the beginning to the end. He would never throw such a big tantrum. Qin Zhou was completely dumbfounded by this furious roar. Just as he was about to lose his temper, he saw Gu Xingze's body sway. He immediately went forward to support his arm. As soon as she got close to him, she smelled the strong scent of alcohol. "You drank?" Gu Xingze impatiently pushed him aside and said coldly, "It's none of your business." "What do you mean it's none of my business? How can I not care about you when you look like this?" Qin Zhou did not give up and went forward to support his arm. Gu Xingze seemed to have lost all his strength. His body tilted and he leaned weakly against Qin Zhou. Even though his entire body was weak, he still pushed him away regardless. "Let go of me. Leave me alone." Qin Zhou did not know whether to laugh or cry as if he was coaxing a willful child. He said, "I want to let go of you, but now you're clearly the one leaning on me." Gu Xingze was about to speak when he suddenly coughed violently. Cough, cough, cough. Chapter 1846. At first, he thought that he was just coughing a few times, but in the end, it was getting out of hand and he was coughing as if he had overdrawn his energy. Qin Zhou's half-joking expression suddenly disappeared, and he anxiously held him up. However, he realized that Gu Xingze's originally fair face was now pale. "What's wrong with you?" Qin Zhou was extremely worried. From the looks of it, it seemed like his stomach was acting up. He had a very serious stomach problem, and he rarely drank. It wasn't that he couldn't hold his liquor, but if he drank too much alcohol, his stomach problem would act up. The last time his stomach problem acted up, it was because he drank a few glasses of wine at a social event. At the hotel, Gu Xingze had just opened the door when he fainted at the entrance. He was hurriedly sent to the hospital, where they found out that his stomach was bleeding. This time, his symptoms were exactly the same as the previous time. Qin Zhou couldn't help but wonder if he had drunk too much alcohol after not eating for 2 days and 2 nights. At the thought of this, Qin Zhou supported him and walked out of the door without any explanation. Gu Xingze pushed him away and frowned. "What are you doing?" "I'm taking you to the hospital. Looking at you, I'm worried that your stomach is acting up. Get lost." Gu Xingze pushed him away in frustration. "Why are you haunting me like a ghost?" Did I ask you to control me? Xingzi, don't be willful. Your body is already like this, and you're still drinking. Have you ever thought about your own health? I don't need to think. I just want to be quiet, and don't let anyone disturb me. Whether it's you or anyone else, stay away from me. Gu Xingzi's eyes were filled with anxiety. After he finished speaking expressionlessly, his body swayed and he finally couldn't take it anymore. His vision turned black and he lost consciousness. On the other end, Yin Shirshir stared at the phone screen with her mouth agape. Looking at the phone that had been hung up, she couldn't calm down for a long time. Suddenly, a devilish voice came from behind her. What are you doing? Yin Shirshir jumped in shock. In her great shock, the phone slipped from her hand due to her nervousness and fell to the ground with a loud thud. Ah! She turned around abruptly, only to see Muyaja standing behind her without her knowing. Her eyes widened in shock, and due to an inexplicable fluster, her expression became a little unnaturally nervous. When did you come in? Muyaja looked at her calmly. His deep eyes fell on her face, but he smiled. Just now. Just now. Yes. Why didn't you knock before coming in? When Muyaja heard this, he raised his head and elegantly looked around the room. He asked calmly, "This is our room. I don't think I need to knock on the door." There was panic in Yin Shirshir's eyes. She patted her thundering chest, clearly frightened by his sudden appearance. She rebuked, "Why are you like a cat? You don't even make a sound when you walk. I didn't even notice you standing behind me. You were too engrossed in the phone call." Muyaja paused and looked at the phone that had fallen on the floor. His eyes flashed with suspicion. "Who were you calling?" "I didn't call anyone." Yin Shirshir was a little flustered. She immediately bent down as if she had a guilty conscience and wanted to pick up the phone. Chapter 1847. She didn't know why, but when her phone fell into his hands, her heart started beating wildly uncontrollably. What about me?" Muyaja laughed. "Why are you stammering? It's as if you have a guilty conscience." Yin Shirshir's heart skipped a beat as she looked at him in disbelief. Muyaja pretended to examine her expression seriously, and suddenly asked in a deep voice, "You look so nervous. Are you doing something bad behind my back?" "No." Yin Shirshir immediately snatched the phone from his hands and casually made up an excuse. "I just wanted to see if my phone was broken." As she said this, she seriously examined the screen to see if it was cracked. Muyaja looked at the phone and then at her before asking out of the blue, "Who's calling?" Muyaja frowned. "You can't tell me?" "No," Yin Shirshir explained awkwardly. "It was Qinzhou who called. He informed me of the upcoming schedule and asked me to prepare for the premiere of The Green Apple." Muyaja pursed his lips and stared at her. Suddenly his lips curled up and he said, "Are you lying?" "No." Yin Shirshir felt extremely guilty, but she still straightened her back and looked up at him. "What do you mean by lying?" "I'm just telling the truth." "All right, I'm just teasing you." Upon hearing this, Yin Shirshir's face turned pale. The huge rock that had been hanging in her throat finally fell to the ground. She relaxed for a moment, but was shocked to find that she was breaking out in cold sweat. Muyaja smiled gently as if he didn't notice anything strange about her. He immediately reminded her, "It's getting late. Hurry up and take a shower." Oh, Yin Shirshir nodded in a daze. At this moment, her mind was in a mess and she didn't know what she was thinking. Oh my God! Subconsciously, she actually lied. It was Gu Xingzi who had called and nothing had happened, but she was still afraid that he would be angry, so she subconsciously mentioned Qinzhou and avoided Gu Xingzi. She still could not forget the confrontation between Muyaja and Gu Xingzi on set that day. She naturally wanted to avoid such a thing at all costs. But Muyaja was so smart. She didn't know when he came in, or when he was standing behind her. She also didn't know how much of her phone call he had heard. She didn't know if he would see through her lies. If he saw through it, it would be counterproductive. There was clearly nothing going on, but he was afraid that he would misunderstand on a deeper level. Yin Shirshir was confused. She wanted to tell him the truth, but in front of Muyaja, she didn't dare to mention the name Gu Xingzi. Now that he had relented and told her to take a shower, she felt as if she had been granted amnesty and walked towards the bathroom. However, she had just taken a step when Muyaja suddenly grabbed her waist from behind and pulled her into his embrace. Yin Shirshir couldn't help but feel nervous and on tenterhooks. She was afraid that he would discover something, and was planning to force a confession out of her. Chapter 1848. Don't dawdle. I'm waiting for you, he said in a gentle voice. Holding her waist, he took advantage of the situation and lingered on her chest. His slightly hoarse voice was bewitching. Don't make me wait for too long. Yin Shirshir's heart stopped and her face instantly flushed red like steam. What are you talking about? Blushing, she pushed him away and headed to the bathroom with her head lowered. Perhaps she was too nervous, or perhaps she was so shy that she forgot herself, but when she entered the bathroom, she slammed her head against the door frame, causing her to grimace in pain. Muyaja's lips stiffened as he watched her holding her forehead in pain and plunging into the bathroom. When she closed the door, the smile on Muyaja's face froze in an instant. He slowly focused his gaze and a cold glint flashed across his eyes. After the engagement party ended, she spent 2 days with him on the island before hurrying back to the set. She was already deeply grateful that the production crew had given her a 7-day break. Hence, 2 days after the engagement party ended, she hurried back. For 2 consecutive days and nights, she filmed 2 daytime scenes and drove through the night. Yin Shirshir gritted her teeth and put in all her effort to finish filming the scenes that she had been delayed for the past few days. As soon as she finished filming, she immediately applied for a leave of absence. Lin Fengtian had put her on the schedule for a whole week. Of course, Lin Fengtian specially went to the production crew of Lethal Beauty to inform Gu Xiaoyang. The two of them had a good relationship, so Lin Fengtian's one sentence was enough for Gu Xiaoyang to approve her leave. The Green Apple went through a long post-production process. In order to strive for perfection, Lin Fengtian delayed the post-production process for a long time. However, it was also because of this excellent post-production that it piqued the interest of the film's fans. On the internet, many netizens expressed their strong anticipation for this film. Before the premiere, there was a screening of the film with 100 people. Many fans of the original novel watched the screening and said that the film was great. The nationwide roadshow tour was about to begin. In order to promote the movie, Lin Fengtian was extremely spirited. He was prepared to win 24 roadshows nationwide in one go. In addition to the major provincial capitals, some prosperous second-tier cities were also on the list. He was full of confidence in this movie. He vowed that he would be the box office champion of the romance movie at Christmas and the end of the year. With this ambition, he was fully prepared. The early stage of publicity was almost explosive. Just the advance trailer alone had produced 5. Relying on his own rich resources, he bombarded the various satellite channels one after another. The theme song directly jumped to Inua TV's #1. Many artists had recorded VCRs to congratulate Lin Fengtian on his success at the box office. It had to be said that although Lin Fengtian had the reputation of a devil director, and everyone on the set was afraid of him, it had to be said that his popularity was ridiculously good. Just by confirming the lineup of well-known directors and A-list celebrities that would be attending the premiere, coupled with the presence of various media outlets, this huge lineup could be said to be magnificent. The release of the movie coincided with Christmas Day. Lin Fengtian even said that he would be the box office champion that day. His wild ambition was self-evident. One had to know that this was not the only movie that would be released on Christmas Day. Chapter 1849. Generally speaking, the release cycle of a movie was about 20 days to 2 months. The more powerful the director was, the higher the production rate and the longer the release cycle. Moreover, with Gu Xingze around, Lin Fengtian was very confident about the box office. Yin Shirshir, on the other hand, was under unprecedented pressure. This was her first film, and it was also her first time playing the female lead as a newcomer. If she was not famous enough and could not hold up the box office, she would definitely be upset if she dragged the whole crew down. However, Qin Zhou comforted her. With Lin Fengtian and Gu Xingze, the two leaders of the box office, even if she was not famous enough, the box office results would not be too bad. The crew had prepared a few gowns, but Yin Shirshir had been putting on some weight recently. Qin Zhou was worried that she would screw up and it would be awkward if she could not fit into the gowns, so he urged her to lose weight. Of course, in such a short period of time, the so-called method of losing weight was also quite rough. For the premiere, she had starved for 2 days before she was able to wear the gown perfectly. Lin Fengtian was only satisfied when he saw it. However, on the day of the premiere, when Yun Shishir arrived at the venue, she realized that all the crew members were there, except for Gu Xingze. She did not see him. Was he going to miss the premiere? Yun Shishir was worried that something might have happened to him, so she tried to ask Qin Zhou about it. Qin Zhou replied vaguely, "He will be here, but something happened, so he might be a little late. But he will definitely be here before the premiere." Yun Shishir frowned. She was a little worried, but she did not show it on her face. Gu Xingze finally arrived with more than half an hour to the start of the event. However, when he appeared, it was with a rather grand entourage. For bodyguards led the way, along with the personal doctor, stylist and assistant. More than a dozen people escorted him into the dressing room. Yun Shishir suddenly received a phone call from Yun Qinli. "Sister Shishir, I heard that it's the premiere of The Green Apple today. Gu Xingze will be there too, right?" "Yes. Then can you help me get an autograph? Please, please. I'm Xingzhe's hardcore fan, so I don't ask for much. I just want an autograph." Yun Qinli begged again. Yun Shishir only said perfunctorily, "I'm very busy. If there's a chance, I'll definitely do it for you." With that, she hung up the phone impatiently and sat in the dressing room, her mind in a mess. 10 minutes later, Gu Xingze finished his makeup and walked out of the dressing room. She looked up at him and saw his pale, sickly face. Even though his handsome face had been carefully groomed by the stylist, it was not difficult to see that he was extremely exhausted at the moment. His face was pale, and his forehead was dripping with cold sweat. His thin lips were tightly pursed and dry. Even though he had applied lipstick, it still couldn't hide his weak breath. Especially from his tightly knitted brows, it was obvious that his body was in a very bad condition. Yun Shishir couldn't help but ask, "Qin Zhou, what's wrong with Xingzhe? I see that his face is very pale. He seems to be sick." Qin Zhou frowned but did not say a word. Suddenly he said slowly, "He's attending the premiere because this might be his last movie." As soon as Qin Zhou finished speaking, Yun Shishir widened her eyes in shock and looked at him in disbelief. "His last movie?" Chapter 1850. "What do you mean by that? I don't quite understand." "It's nothing." Qin Zhou smiled faintly, but there was nothing he could do. He said, "His health condition is indeed worrying. Some time ago, he drank too much and was rushed to the hospital. His stomach was bleeding and his condition worsened. He has been on a drip for the past few days, and his body is very weak." Bleeding from his stomach. Yun Shishir was shocked when she heard that. "Yes. Didn't you know?" Qin Zhou glanced at her. "He has a very serious stomach problem, and he acts erratically. His daily routine is very irregular. Usually, when he suffers from a stomach problem, his meals have to be taken care of. But a few days ago, he went to drink to drown his sorrows. I don't know what has gotten into him. I think he doesn't want his body anymore." Yun Shishir's heart suddenly skipped a beat. He has been very dispirited recently. In the past he was arrogant and aloof. He had always sealed himself in his own world. I've been with him for so long and finally opened up half of his heart. But now he has closed it again and returned to how he used to be. The more Qin Zhou spoke, the more resentful he became. What a good-for-nothing brat. He is indeed worrying. He doesn't know how to take care of himself. I told him that he doesn't want me to take care of him. He said that he can take care of himself. But what happened in the end? His stomach problem worsened. The doctor said that if this goes on, there is a risk that he will become cancerous. Qin Zhou sighed. Obviously, he was both mentally and physically exhausted. To him, Gu Xingze was once his business partner. He was an artist that he had groomed and groomed. He was a superstar that he had personally created. He was also a close friend that he cared about the most. Now that Gu Xingze was so dispirited that he did not have any appetite for food or drink and repeatedly ruined his health, Qin Zhou could not wait to give him a good beating. He wanted to see if he could wake him up from his stupor. Yun Shishir's heart was in a mess. At that moment, she was worried and confused. What did Qin Zhou mean by the last movie? Was he going to quit the entertainment industry? Actually, withdrawing was a good thing. After being in the entertainment industry for so many years, Gu Xingze had accumulated a considerable amount of assets. If he were to retire from the entertainment industry and return to a normal life, it would not be a bad thing. This way he would have more energy to take care of himself and his body. On the contrary, Yin Shirshir hoped that he would quit the entertainment industry. However, Qin Zhou seemed to have read her mind as he suddenly said, I don't think it's a good thing for Xingze to leave the entertainment industry. He made his debut when he was very young. His career has always been the core of his life. If he withdraws now, his life will have lost its meaning. As he spoke, he extinguished the cigarette in his hand in the ashtray, deeply worried. He rarely smoked, but recently, he was very addicted to smoking. He smoked a pack a day, one cigarette after another. The ashtray was already full of cigarette butts. Yin Shirshir didn't know what to say. The movie premiere started. This was a competition for fame and fortune, and also an ambitious campaign to build momentum. On the stage, all the main cast members sat on the high stools and faced the media's questions one by one. Yin Shirshir, who was sitting next to the superstar, could clearly feel his hand trembling uncontrollably as he held the microphone. Her heart clenched tightly in her chest at the sight of this. Chapter 1851. The media asked, Xingze, may I ask, what is your biggest gain from this movie? Gu Xingze held the microphone and answered, I think my biggest gain would be the memories of working with such an outstanding director like Director Lin and so many hardworking actors. Everyone worked very hard to make this movie. Because this movie was adapted from a famous novel, many fans of the novel were looking forward to it. In order to live up to the expectations of the fans, everyone worked very hard. Media. What do you feel about your first teen movie when you first debuted, and now, after 10 years of your debut, acting in another teen movie? Gu Xingze said, actually, teen movies are not just about feelings. The biggest gain is that after 10 years of constant practice, my acting skills have improved tremendously. The Green Apple is probably a milestone in my acting career. I put a lot of effort into this movie, and I hope that the fans will be satisfied with it. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly moved the microphone away and covered his mouth as he coughed a few times. The hoarse sound of coughing entered her ears clearly. Yin Shirshir couldn't help but clench her fists. The media suddenly asked a sharp question. May I ask, what are your expectations for the box office? Director Lin said that he expects the box office to exceed 2 billion. Of course, no matter what the final box office is, in my heart, The Green Apple is a rare and good movie. I hope that everyone will like it. That one sentence was enough to defuse the incisive question. All the media sighed. In front of Gu Xingze, they often couldn't get any benefits. Thus, they started to change their target and launched a fierce attack on Yin Shirshir. However, after so many live rehearsals, Yin Shirshir's ability to react on the spot was not inferior. No matter how sharp the question was, it was not difficult for her to answer it. The media was in despair. At the end of the ceremony, Gu Xingze and Yin Shirshir raised champagne and slowly poured it on the ice sculpture of the name, The Green Apple. After the premiere, Yin Shirshir silently followed Gu Xingze out of the theater. Along the way, she saw Gu Xingze coughing incessantly. She was scared out of her wits. Several times, when he coughed violently, she was afraid that he would cough up blood. At a corner, he was suddenly bumped into by a staff member who was hurriedly passing by. His body swayed slightly and he was about to fall. Yin Shirshir quickly supported him from behind. Are you all right? The staff member was also shocked. When he saw that it was Gu Xingze, he trembled with fear and wanted to help him up in a hurry. However, when he saw Gu Xingze's cold eyes, he tactfully withdrew his hand, apologized, and quickly ran away. Gu Xingze supported himself against the wall and stood up straight. He brushed her hand away coldly. Yin Shirshir's face was a little stiff. Then, she calmed down and said with a frown, Let's go to the hospital. Gu Xingze slowly turned his head and glanced at her. Yin Shirshir said worriedly, Your body is too weak. There are still 24 roadshows left. You won't be able to take it. What do you mean by this? Gu Xingze suddenly questioned her. She was stunned. He smiled, but it seemed like he was mocking her. Are you concerned about me? Chapter 1852. Gu Xingzi said coldly and turned around. Just when she thought that he was going to leave, he did not move. Instead, he said slowly in a weak voice, Sure, do you know? I've thought of countless possibilities between us, but I never thought that it would end like this. Gu Xingzi laughed mockingly. I hope that you've made the right choice. After saying that, he supported his heavy body and slowly left. Yin Shirshir watched his resolute back view, but she could feel the heaviness in his cold words. It was as if his heart had been pierced by a knife and was bleeding profusely. On the way home, Yin Shirshir sat in the back seat. She seemed to have lost her soul and was distracted. You made a call to her, she said cheekily. Mommy, I watched the live broadcast of your movie premiere. You're so beautiful today. You've reached a new height. Mommy, when are you coming home? Yin Shirshir forced a smile. I'm already on the way. I'll be home in about 15 minutes. Mommy, do you want to have supper? It's okay. On the other end of the line, Yu sensed that Yin Shirshir was in a daze and sounded disappointed. She asked worriedly, Mommy, what's wrong? You sound like you're not happy? Did someone bully you? Or did someone make you angry? No, I'm just a little tired. Yu smiled and said coquettishly, It's okay. When Mommy comes home, Yu will massage your shoulders. Okay. Yu is so obedient. After hanging up the phone, Yin Shirshir's arms hung down weakly. She looked out of the window at the passing scenery. Gu Xingzi's lonely voice still echoed in her ears. I've thought that there are countless possibilities between us, but he didn't expect it to end like this. Hopefully you've made the right choice. Yin Shirshir closed her eyes and forced herself not to let her imagination run wild. As soon as she got home, Yu and Xiao Yichen rushed to the entrance to welcome her. They helped her take her coat and bag. The two little lads welcomed her into the living room in a flurry. One of them was in charge of massaging her shoulders, and the other was in charge of massaging her legs. They were extremely busy. Yu suddenly smiled mischievously. Mommy, you must have worked hard today. I watched the premiere today. Mommy is the prettiest among all the celebrities. Little Yichen cheered from the side. Oh my, I've seen the trailer and I think it's really good. Tomorrow, Yu and I will book the entire theater to watch a movie for Mommy. You're so corrupt, Yu said angrily. Xiao Yichen was not to be outdone. He said, Of course I have to support Mommy's movie. I'm using my pocket money to book the entire theater. What's wrong with that? He then smiled and said, Mommy is so beautiful. It'll be a wonder if the movie doesn't explode at the box office. Yin Shirshir was stunned. You want to book the entire theater to watch the movie? Yes, Xiao Yichen thought to himself. He had already contacted a few theaters through his daddy and booked the entire theater to boost the box office on Christmas Day. Chapter 1853. He had put in a lot of effort. Sob. How could that idiot Yu understand? However, he had wronged Yu. In reality, Yu didn't say it out loud, but what about the truth? He had already booked all of Huanyu's cinemas and bought a few million yuan worth of movie tickets. Furthermore, he had sent out the list in advance. Under Leji Holdings, any customer who bought over 500 yuan on Christmas Day would receive 2 free movie tickets for The Green Apple. Wouldn't it be a waste to give them away for free? Not only could it increase their sales, but it could also support their Mommy's movie. Yu had made a brilliant move. Compared to him, Xiao Yichen was indeed a little too naive. Yu snorted coldly and secretly looked down on Xiao Yichen. Yin Shirshir looked at the two little clowns. No matter how bad her mood was, it instantly lightened up a lot. She hugged the two cute little guys and smiled. You two are really. Mommy loves you to death. Mommy loves me. As for that idiot Mu Yichen, Mommy shouldn't love him. Yu said coldly in her arms. Xiao Yichen cried out pitifully. You're ostracizing me. Who's ostracizing you? Yu snorted arrogantly again and said lightly, I don't want to be in the same team as an idiot like you. You even booked the entire cinema. Mu Yichen, you're really something. It seems like Daddy gave you a lot of pocket money. Xiao Yichen poked his fingers and said pitifully, What? I worked so hard to save up this pocket money. Go ahead and be happy. How many kids your age have a few million yuan in pocket money? Yu said coldly. Muichen pouted and sulked. Yu seemed to feel uncomfortable if he didn't bicker with him for a day. After spending so much time with him, although he was used to his arrogance and sharp tongue, it still hurt to be ridiculed once in a while. Alright. You two stop fooling around. Yin Shirshir scolded softly and patted the two little guys' butts. Hurry up and go take a shower. Mommy, we've already showered. Smell me. Do I smell good? Xiao Yichen hugged Yin Shirshir and fooled around in her arms. After the shower, it's getting late. It's time to go to bed. She hurried the two children to bed. You still have school tomorrow. Mommy, tomorrow is Sunday. Yu's words reminded her. She looked at the calendar and realized with a start that she had been so busy these past few days that she had lost track of time. Tomorrow was indeed Sunday. Alright. Mommy knows her mistake. Mommy will read you a story, okay? Yin Shirshir coaxed gently. Upon hearing that she would read a story, Xiao Yichen immediately got down from her arms and ran back to the bedroom happily. Mommy, I'll wait for you on the bed. Yin Shirshir was amused by him and burst out laughing. This clown. Yu also said shyly. Mommy, I'll wait for you on the bed too. I'll wait for you to tell me a story. After saying that, he also ran back to his bedroom. Yin Shirshir was in a mess. With these two little guys, life was really full of sunshine. Chapter 1854. At night, Yin Shirshir was lying on the bed, tossing and turning. She frowned and reflected on herself. Gu Xing's attitude towards her was completely different from before. In the past, he was as gentle as the spring breeze and extremely delicate to her. Now he was a little impatient and cold towards her. He was deliberately distancing himself from her. Actually, keeping a distance was not necessarily a bad thing. Since he was indifferent to her, she would naturally keep a distance from him. This was good for both of them. Even if she did not like him, she should not get close to him. She did not like Gu Xingza, but perhaps in some aspects, some of her actions might make others think that she was interested in him. Yin Shirshir pursed her lips. She knew that Gu Xingza liked her, but she had already tried her best to keep a distance from him. Whenever he took a step closer, she would take a step back. However, she was at a loss as to what to do. She admired him as a respectable senior. He was good at acting and cared for every junior on set. He was gentle, considerate, knew how to take care of people, and was meticulous. Her feelings for him were probably like a junior sister's feelings for a senior brother. She relied on him. However, he did not seem to care for her like a senior brother did for a junior sister. Since that was the case, Yin Shirshir made up her mind. No matter what he thought, she would keep a distance from him from now on, and try her best to distance herself from him. Although she felt guilty, it did not mean that she would compromise on certain matters. Perhaps her previous attitude was too ambiguous, so much so that it could not be cut off. Since that was the case, she had already thought of how to deal with these matters. Muyaja had flown to another city on a business trip these few days. The internal affairs of the organization had piled up like a mountain. Hence, before he left yesterday, he purposely hugged her for a long time and refused to leave. When they parted, he hugged her and reminded her repeatedly, "Be good when I'm not around. Don't do anything that will make me worry. If you're too tired from work, take leave and rest. Don't worry about what others say. If they have anything to say about you, ask them to come to me directly. If you're too tired, don't work. I can take care of 100 of you." It was simply hard for them to part. Muyaja was naturally reluctant to go on a long trip right after the engagement. No matter how he thought about it, he couldn't bear to leave his lovely wife alone at home. If Yin Shirshir's promotional schedule wasn't very full, he even had the impulse to carry her onto the plane. Yin Shirshir didn't know whether to laugh or cry at his reluctance to part. She joked, "All right. Be serious. Those who don't know would think that you're going to the front lines and won't be coming back." Muyaja held her in his arms and kissed her passionately. Lu Jinyu and Jiang Shen, who were standing behind them, were tormented by this display of affection. After boarding the plane, the two of them protested loudly at Muyaja. They protested that Muyaja, as the boss, was not considerate of his underlings at all. He even showed off his affection in front of the single dogs. especially Jiangshen. Guyu slumped in his seat and sighed. Boss, you obviously don't like us, so you're torturing us in all sorts of ways. Isn't it enough to feed you tons and tons of dog food at your engagement ceremony? I can't take it anymore. I can't eat any more dog food. Otherwise, I'll be stuffed to death. Chapter 1855. Lu Jinyu also rubbed his belly and yelled, I can't eat anymore. Jiangshen, when we reach Luo City, let's go hunting. We have to find a girlfriend. Otherwise, we will be tortured to death by boss. You can find one if you want. I still want to follow boss. Boss has tortured me thousands of times, but I treat him like my first love. Jiangshen took the opportunity to suck up to him. Mu Yaja snorted arrogantly. Lu Jinyu added, no matter how you treat boss like your first love, he will still torture you thousands of times. Jiangshen's heart was stifled. He secretly wiped his bitter tears. Lu Jinyu said jokingly, did you hear what boss said just now? Be good and stay at home. Don't do anything that makes me worry. Boss is with us physically, but his heart is with sister-in-law. Jiangshen nodded indignantly. Mu Yaja said, your sister-in-law is prone to fooling around. Naturally, I have to take care of her. Unintentionally, he was fed another mouthful of dog food. Lu Jinyu's lips twitched violently. He really felt the 10,000 critical hits of love. It's so good to be in love. Jiangshen sighed. Speaking of love, it seems to be a matter of my previous life. Nonsense. I saw a woman beside you last time. Lu Jinyu exposed him. Jiangshen said expressionlessly, that's not my girlfriend, okay? The only relationship I've had was when I was in college. At that time, I was really young. Lu Jinyu was indeed the sharp-tongued king of Xingyu Financial Group. In fact, except for your youthful appearance, your bones are full of dust. Jiangshen was speechless. When Yin Shirshir woke up, she found that the whole world had changed. It was not the world she was in, but the world of the internet. The first thing she did when she woke up in the morning was to open Weibo to read some offensive comments from fans. After reading 3 to 5 comments, she would be energized. She was originally pessimistically prepared to be attacked by fans of the novel when she opened Weibo. However, when she turned on her phone today, she suddenly felt that the world was a fantasy. Her latest Weibo post was a photo with Lin Fengtian backstage at the premiere. She was wearing a black dress, tall and elegant, and extremely beautiful. Before she went to bed yesterday, there were only a few hundred comments. When she woke up, she saw tens of thousands of comments and countless comments. She clicked on it, and saw that her Weibo post had tens of thousands of new comments. What did that mean? In just one night, her Weibo followers had exceeded 5 million new. Yin Shirshir was stunned. She thought that the system was retarded, but after flipping through a few pages, she found that every new comment was a live fan's message. The system did not malfunction at all. Fan A Shirshir. You. As a loyal fan of the Green Apple, I attended the movie premiere yesterday. Oh my god. This is the first time I've seen such a beautiful person in real life. Become your fan. Fan B. When I first saw your movie poster, you were so beautiful that you didn't look like a human being. I thought you had a strong post-production team. I didn't expect you to be so beautiful in real life. After watching the movie, in addition to your looks, I love your acting skills even more. Every look in your eyes is full of love. I'm going to watch it again today. Supporting you. Chapter 1856. Fan D. I used to hate you. Hate you. Hate you. Because I'm Gu Xing's die-hard fan. Back then, I was wondering where you came from and how you could become Master Xing's imaginary lover. But after watching the movie, I realized that you and Master Xingza are really compatible. I hope you two are really together. Heart, 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 heart Fan E. Yin Shirshir, what a poetic name. I had a deep impression of you, but I always thought you were like the other young actresses, with only looks and no acting skills. After watching the movie, I realized that you're a real idol with real skills. I hope you become more and more popular. Yin Shirshir scrolled through the comments again and again. Most of them were from fans who had watched the movie and left comments on her Weibo. Of course, there were also anti-fans sent by other female celebrities and Gu Xing's die-hard fans who attacked her. But even so, many of her fans stood up to criticize and protest. Since her debut, this was the first time she felt the power of her fans. The feeling of being protected and respected was great. The feeling of using her acting skills to conquer the audience was great. The feeling of being able to gain fans because of her acting skills was great. Previously, Lin Fengtian had a private conversation with her and said that her looks were considered one of the best among the young actresses in the industry. She was even more beautiful than the rest. In terms of acting skills, she was also better than many others, but compared to some veteran actors who were at the pinnacle of acting, she was still lacking. He had told her more than once, "Looks will fade with the passing of youth. No one's looks can surpass the cruel years, but their acting skills can." A truly respectable actor not only has outstanding looks, but also a professional attitude and constantly improving acting skills. You have great potential. If you work harder, you'll definitely go far on this path. Yun Shirshir saw the passionate comments from her fans and instantly felt her blood boil. She was greatly encouraged. That was enough. Her first film was able to gain the recognition of many fans of the original work. That was already the greatest affirmation for her. However, other than that, the surprise seemed to be far from that. Soon news of success came from the crew. On the day of the premiere, the real-time box office sales had exceeded 100 million. Although there were still a few hours before the end of Christmas, the box office sales continued to increase. It had become a dark horse among the movies released on that day. It had even surpassed the results of many Hollywood blockbusters and won the crown. Movie fans went crazy. They were full of praises for the movie. The rating on Douban was as high as 9.2. Compared to the harsh rating system, this was considered an outstanding result. Even Lin Fengtian did not expect the movie to be so successful after it was released. It had far exceeded his expectations. The thing that Yun Shirshir didn't even dare to think about happened. She held her phone and looked at the rising real-time box office. The trending terms about the movie on Weibo had reached the top. Fans kept coming out of the theater and showing off their ticket stubs on Weibo. They were very positive about the movie. Many fans of the original novel expressed that the degree of restoration of the movie had far exceeded their expectations. Some of the most detailed plots in the original novel had been preserved and restored as much as possible. Chapter 1857. High box office sales but poor reviews were inevitable. Many movie adaptations of novels often attracted fans of the original novel to the cinema. However, due to the lack of originality, they ended up in an awkward situation. The author of the original novel, The Green Apple, posted on Weibo and posted a photo of the male and female leads kissing passionately in the cinema. She said, "Thank you, both of you are excellent actors. In my heart, both of you are In Xiachuan and In Dongyu. Your performances are outstanding." Feeling flattered, Yun Shirshir gave him a thumbs up. On a morning without any work, she lazed in bed, holding her cell phone and reading the comments left by her fans. She really wanted to read every single comment, be it praise or criticism. She wanted to finish reading them all. When Yu knocked on the door and entered the room, he saw Yun Shirshir curled up under the covers, holding her cell phone and smiling. Seeing this, he couldn't help but feel better. "Mommy, you're so lazy today. It's already 9:30. Why are you still lazing around in bed?" Yu ran to the bed and made a move to lift her blanket. Yun Shirshir wrapped herself in the blanket and pleaded, Yu, don't lift Mommy's blanket. Mommy knows her mistake." Yu pursed his lips and smiled helplessly. Then he snuggled under the blanket and hugged her. He asked, "Mommy, what are you looking at?" "Weibo." "Oh." Yu raised his eyebrows and smiled. "I saw the entertainment news this morning saying that The Green Apple is ranked first in the real-time box office sales. Moreover, it's tens of millions of yuan behind the second-place movie. That's great." Yun Shirshir pressed her cell phone against her chest and said emotionally, "There's a sense of accomplishment that comes from working hard and being recognized. I feel very satisfied to have my efforts respected and acknowledged by others." It's early in the morning. Is Mommy so happy? Yu was happy to see that she was in a good mood. After all, his mother had worked hard for this movie. Yu was naturally happy for her that it was a success. Yun Shirshir was also filled with emotions. At first, when the movie was released, she was very nervous. She felt that she wasn't good enough and wouldn't be recognized. Even if she worked hard, she might not be recognized by the fans. Moreover, on the day of the release, there would be many blockbusters competing with her. She did not want to be a hit. She only wanted to be able to fight steadily. At the very least, she did not want to be known as a beauty with poor acting skills. When it came to acting, it was purely out of interest and not because of the vanity of wanting to be famous. In the evening, the real-time box office sales were finally confirmed. On the day of the screening of The Green Apple, it had achieved a box office of 150 million yuan, breaking Lin Fengtian's expectations. That night, the film crew held a sensational celebration party. Although Gu Xingze was absent, all the main cast members present were looking forward to the final box office earnings of the film. Everyone believed that the final box office sales of the movie would definitely exceed Lin Fengtian's expectations. 2 billion shouldn't be too difficult to conquer. On the night of the celebration party, many media outlets participated in the party and published many articles. Huan Yu struck while the iron was hot. They threw in a lot of resources and carried out the post-production publicity. It was almost explosive publicity. The front pages of all the major web portals, Weibo, forums, Tieba, and online guilds were bombarded one after another. Almost everyone knew about this movie. Chapter 1858. The production crew pulled open the curtains of the nationwide roadshow. At the start, there were a few thousand audience members at the premiere, and at the end, there were tens of thousands of movie fans at Beijing University. The first roadshow was very successful. Many netizens also spontaneously promoted the movie online, and there were endless positive reviews. Many people who did not pay attention to movies noticed this movie with high positive reviews, so they all went to the cinema to see it. The movie officially entered the competition for the Lunar New Year slot, and all the studios started to work hard. Whether it was publicity or hype, everyone wanted to get a share of the pie during the Golden Lunar New Year slot at the end of the year. The battle for the box office was in full swing. After the first day, the box office decline that Lin Fengtian was worried about did not happen. On the contrary, it gradually increased. On the fifth day of release, the box office had already broken the 500 million mark and was heading towards the 1 billion mark. This was probably Lin Fengtian's most outstanding movie ever since he entered the industry. In the past, the teen movies were praised for being good, but not very popular. He had filmed so many movies, from tens of millions to hundreds of millions at the box office. Any movie that could break the 1 billion mark was almost a mythical existence. However, Lin Fengtian had high hopes for the movie. Hence, he worked even harder to promote the movie. All the main cast members acted as if they were on steroids, and they put in their best effort to perform. After Christmas, a few movies were released one after another. Most of them were crudely produced movies that investors had invested in to rush for the Golden Lunar New Year slot. Whether it was a comedy, an action movie, or a thriller movie, the publicity made it sound dignified, and it took 10 years to polish a sword. But what about the inside story? The entire movie cycle was only a few months, so how good could the finished product be? Without a good script, even the most basic logic did not make sense. They pulled in a few box office leaders and worked hard to create a movie, just to rush for the Lunar New Year slot to make money. In the past, this was basically a tried and tested model. But this time, under the pincer attack of The Green Apple, and a few Hollywood blockbusters, a few commercial movies failed miserably. One of the comedies was even more interesting. Later on, it even sparked a war between the fans of The Green Apple and the film crew. The reason was that there was a Hong Kong male artiste in this comedy. Before the movie was released, no one knew if he was deliberately hyping things up or trying to please the public, but he actually posted on Twitter some insulting remarks about China and gangsters. He even said, "The mainland audience is very stupid." Hong Kong and Taiwanese artistes came to the mainland to make money, but the mainland audience is still supporting them like idiots. Anyway, I support XINGGNGDULI, but even so, there will still be audiences who will buy my movies. This explosive statement caused an uproar in the Chinese entertainment industry. Yin Shishir was no stranger to this male artist. Previously, when she was on the show, this male artist was a guest and recorded with her. Backstage, he actually tried to take advantage of her and got slapped by her in return. The man was so angry that he insulted her with Hong Kong accent. He was an artist with a very bad character. Yin Shershur only had disgust for him. Now he even made such a brainless statement. Chapter 1859. Lin Fengtian was even more disdainful. He came all the way to the mainland to make money and even scolded the mainland audience for being brainless. It's an insult to the fans that such an artist exists in the entertainment industry. The investors of the comedy were dumbfounded. The facts proved that the male artist was not deliberately sensationalizing or playing to the gallery. He was a gangster in his bones. In the end, he went overboard. Hence, the movie called The Secret Service Team Next Door triggered a large-scale boycott by the netizens. The investors complained incessantly. They worked through the night to remove the artist's name from the poster. Scenes involving him in the movie were deleted as much as possible. He, who was supposed to be the male lead, was edited to be a passerby. But what was the point of cutting out the male lead scenes just like that? Moreover, this person's comments had seriously hurt the feelings of the mainland audience. Even if the investors tried their best to salvage the situation, what was the use? On the day of its release, the box office was dismal. The netizens joined forces to boycott the movie and only earned a few million at the box office. It was utterly embarrassing. There were even netizens who questioned why a movie with a gangster artist was still released in theaters. Many theaters were so frightened that they pulled the movie from their shelves and reduced its screening rate to 0. The investors who were originally full of themselves were dealt a painful blow. They had been preparing for months for the moment of profit. Because of this brainless artist, the box office was so dismal. Hence, the investors issued a ban on the male artist. A few days later, an explosive misunderstanding broke out on the internet. A netizen reported that when she went to the cinema to buy a ticket, she had wanted to watch The Green Apple. In the end, she did not get a printed ticket but a handwritten one. She suspected that a movie had stolen the box office of The Green Apple. Following that, many netizens commented. Some said that they had wanted to watch The Green Apple, but ended up getting tickets for The Secret Service Team Next Door. She tried to reason with the cinema, but was met with rolling eyes. This was exposed on the internet, and there were even screenshots as proof. Many netizens also responded to this problem. Most of them had bought tickets for The Green Apple, but ended up getting tickets for The Secret Service Team Next Door. Later, after a media investigation, the results were that The Secret Service Team Next Door earned a few million at the box office, but the attendance was extremely low. It was only 0.1%. What did that mean? In other words, hundreds of thousands of people had bought tickets, but only a few hundred people had walked into the theater. It really made one not know whether to laugh or cry. She bought a movie ticket but didn't watch it. What did this mean? This meant that The Secret Service Team Next Door was suspected of stealing the box office. If the fake box office sales were excluded, then the box office sales for the first day of The Secret Service Team Next Door would probably be less than a few tens of thousands. Later, the Judicial Department got involved, and the result was that the investors didn't want the box office to be too dismal and lose face, so they reached a consensus with many cinema chains. When the audience bought tickets for The Green Apple, the box office would be included in the box office of The Secret Service Team Next Door, through under-the-table manipulation. The production team of The Green Apple sued the producers of The Secret Service Team Next Door and the cinemas involved in the incident, seeking compensation of several million yuan. In this way, the production crew of The Green Apple had been hyped up. Chapter 1860. The movie's popularity gave Yin Shershur a taste of instant fame. Attention, instant fame. The momentum of her fame caused her net worth to soar again and again. The considerable benefits brought by the movie were different from her previous experiences of being famous. It was immeasurable. Previously, Qinzhou had hyped her up. While bringing her fame, it also brought her a lot of abuse and humiliation. But now, she had used her abilities to prove to those doubtful gazes that an actress could be good at acting as well as having good looks. Lin Fengtian was sincerely happy for her. After a roadshow backstage, he said to her meaningfully, "Shershur, congratulations. You're really famous now." But at the same time, I hope that you don't become arrogant just because you're famous. Many celebrities often lose themselves after they become famous. I hope that you don't change your original intentions and continue to hone your acting skills. You will definitely become a big shot in the future. The title of Best Actress belongs to none other than you. Yin Shirshir thanked him again and again. She cherished Lin Fengtian's recognition of her talent. His appreciation of her naturally made her feel flattered. If there was a chance to work with him again, it would be the best. He was her mentor and good friend, as well as her talent scout. What moved her even more was that Lin Fengtian had made an exception and signed an agreement for her to share the profits. She was the only actress in the cast who could get a share of the profits from the box office. What did that mean? If the box office hit 1 billion, she would get a share of more than 10 million yuan. That was already considerable. Moreover, the box office was still rising. No one knew how high the final result would be. Maybe there was a chance to break the domestic box office record. And the chances were very high. Qin Zhou was very indifferent to her sudden popularity. Or rather, it could be said that this was within his expectations. The person he liked had to be very outstanding. He had already foreseen that she would become famous, so he was not too surprised. Sure, you will become even more famous. He only said this one sentence. The popularity of the movie came with an endless stream of advertising contracts and gold medal offers. Many film crews and advertising companies took a fancy to her rising popularity and offered her an 8-figure endorsement fee, which left her flabbergasted. Therefore, the advertisers who had signed the endorsement contract with Yin Shirshir earlier were secretly delighted. Previously, Yin Shirshir was still considered a nobody. Although she was a little famous, her endorsement fees were naturally not comparable to those of the A-list starlets. Therefore, most of them were only a few 100,000 or a few million. Louis Vuitton's 10 million contract was already the maximum. This was all because of Muyaja. But now, with hundreds of millions of box office earnings, she had become a hot commodity in the eyes of advertisers, and advertising contracts had been thrown at her one after another. At the same time, many high-traffic program groups also invited her to appear on their programs. For a moment, she was in the limelight and became a popular young actress, attracting the attention of everyone. More and more audiences noticed this newcomer with good acting skills, and she also attracted the attention of many well-known directors. She received so many offers that her hands were about to go soft. Qin Zhou was very busy reading the script. Yin Shirshir also worked at night. She stayed up late to read the script, but the more she read, the more dizzy she felt. There were many offers, more than 10 scripts, and it was not a joke at all. There were web dramas, idol dramas, palace dramas, and even spy dramas. Chapter 1861. Audience popularity and popularity were different. Most of the people who watched movies in front of the TV were middle-aged. Audiences at this age would not become fanatical fans, but their names would be familiar to the audience and increase their popularity. Popularity meant that the ratings and box office would be guaranteed. At the same time, it meant that one's value would rise. Value was like a stock. It would rise and fall. But if one accumulated strong audience popularity, one's salary would be guaranteed. What Yin Shirshir needed the most now was audience popularity. She had the popularity, but her popularity was not enough. Her box office appeal could not be compared to the A-list big brands. Therefore, she had to put in more effort in choosing the scripts. However, the scripts were of varying quality and quality. Yin Shirshir felt her head spinning. However, when it came to picking scripts, Qin Zhou had a unique eye. When it came to scripts, he was extremely picky and strict. He didn't even look at some of the crudely written scripts, nor did he accept any of them. Most of the film contracts he accepted were usually made after staying up late to read the script and thinking it over and over again. A good script was difficult to evaluate. Although some scripts had low production rates, they were good scripts. Some scripts had high salaries, but to Qin Zhou, they were of no value. She accepted 2 TV dramas and 3 movies. The most exaggerated thing was that her schedule was scheduled for 3 years later. When Yin Shirshir saw that her schedule was full, she felt dizzy and had mixed feelings. This was probably the mixed feelings after becoming famous. Facing the 7-digit increase in her account every day and the increasingly crowded schedule, she did not know whether to laugh or cry. For the rest of the schedule, Qin did not stop to negotiate contracts for her. Yin Shishir rushed for the promotional period of the movie. After becoming famous, the company requested her to update her Weibo more frequently. During the roadshow, she updated her Weibo more. Before bed, she updated her Weibo even more when reading the script. This was to increase her exposure during the movie's screening period. Of course, the fans who left comments on her Weibo were much friendlier now. They were not like in the past, where they were constantly abusive. However, after becoming famous, gossip followed closely. Many people questioned whether her facial features were exquisite, and whether she had undergone plastic surgery, or gone under the knife. Many people questioned whether there was any unspoken rules behind the scenes for her to work with a top director like Lin Fengtian in her first film. Many people even suspected that she was trying to ride on Gu Xingza's popularity by collaborating with Gu Xingza on a dating program. Rumors about her and Gu Xingza were also spreading like wildfire. However, most netizens felt that she and Gu Xingza were a match made in heaven. At least, they were good-looking. Some of Gu Xingza's fans even turned from haters to fans because of the movie, The Green Apple. The lucky couple was also in full swing. Yin Shishir's heart was in agony when she read those unfounded reports. She felt even more helpless. This kind of hype was really unfair to Gu Xingza. But back then, she was the one who gave her permission to create a scandal. Although Qin was the one who forced her, Yin Shishir felt disgusted that she was trying to ride on his coattails. His head hurt. Hence, she looked for Qin and expressed her attitude. Qin, can I ask you for a favor? Qin raised his eyebrows and asked, what is it? Chapter 1862. Qin paused for a moment and furrowed his brows. Why? Yin Shishir felt relieved after she said this. Actually, all this while, I've been indifferent to the hype of a couple. There's clearly no ambiguity or feelings between us. Yet we have to put on an act for someone we don't like. This makes us feel bad and hurts others. Moreover, I also feel that it's too unfair to Xingzha to hype myself. It wasn't because she felt that such hype was worthless because she was popular. It was because she wanted to achieve success with her acting skills, not hype. Qin was reading the documents beside him. He was so busy that he didn't even look up. He said indifferently, I remember telling you that if you want to take root in the entertainment industry, commercial hype is very important. This is a way of operating. Even if you're popular now, you can't do without hype. After all, what matters now is exposure. If you don't have enough exposure, you naturally need hype to maintain your exposure in front of the public. So it has nothing to do with who is fair or not. Moreover, because of the hype of the relationship, Xingzha's exposure has also increased greatly. This is the best of both worlds. The so-called fairness doesn't exist at all, so you don't have to blame yourself too much. Moreover, the operation between you and Xingzha is my decision and means. It has nothing to do with you. Yin Shishir fell silent. She suddenly sighed and said, but I can't get over it. Qin, I'm already engaged. I have my own lover, and I cherish it very much. So, I don't want to hurt anyone, including Xingzha. Hurt. Qin couldn't help but laugh. There's no such thing as hurt. Shishir, don't be too sensitive. Was she really too sensitive? Qin looked up at her and smiled helplessly. Besides, even if you want to hype it up, I'm afraid you won't have the chance anymore. What do you mean? Don't you know? The team didn't release any more news about you and Xingzha. Qin stopped what he was doing and told her the truth. On the surface, he said it casually, but there was a trace of depression in his eyes. What? Yin Shishir was stunned for a moment. She said hesitantly, then those drafts. Qin eyes flashed with confusion. Then he replied, those posts were created by marketing accounts, not by the team. Actually, there may be one thing I want you to know. Although the news hasn't been released yet, what I want to tell you now is that Xingzha has been banned. What? Yin Shishir was flabbergasted. Banned? How could he be banned? I thought you should know about this. But looking at your attitude, you don't seem to know anything either. Looks like I've misunderstood you. Qin Zhou felt relieved. It seems that you really don't know about this. I don't know. Yun Shishir's face was blank. This news came too suddenly, and she was caught off guard. Why was Xingzhe banned for no reason? When did this happen? She had no idea at all. Chapter 1863. At first, she thought that Gu Xingze was ill and needed to recuperate. But now it seemed that it was not that simple. Could it be that he was really banned? Since Qin Zhou said so, it was definitely not a joke. There was no need for Qin Zhou to lie to her about such matters. But why was he banned? Yun Shishir looked at Qin Zhou in confusion. She felt a little lost and a little incredulous. Why was he banned? Qin Zhou suddenly became silent. Yun Shishir pursed her lips and carefully probed. Is there any secret behind this? Or did he offend someone important, so he was banned? Shishir, let me ask you, do you know Gu Xingze's identity? Qin Zhou's sudden question completely stunned Yun Shishir. She shook her head blankly, obviously not knowing. Have you heard of the Gu family in the capital? Yun Shishir's eyes glinted as she was rendered speechless. The Gu family in the capital? Although she did not know much about it, she had heard some rumors about the Gu family. The Gu family in the capital used to be in the underworld. Later on, they cleared their name and set up a listed company. Their power spanned across both the underworld and the underworld. Although they were not evenly matched with the Mu family, they were on par with the Mu family in the underworld. In the capital, the biggest family after the Mu family was the Gu family in the capital. The Gu family controlled the underground money houses and casinos in the capital. The Gu family's hired thugs gathered densely in the East Street and the village in the city. There was a saying that one would rather offend a gentleman than a villain. Although the Gu family was not a villain, if one offended the Gu family, they would have to experience the Gu family's vicious means. She heard that there was such a rumor in the early years. At that time, the son of a government official in the capital lost a lot of money gambling on the East Street and did not pay back his debts. When the thugs of the casino came looking for him, the son took advantage of the fact that his father was the leader of the government and was rude to the principal. He straightened his back and said fiercely, "My father is Dai Jianqing. Everyone in the capital knows the Dai family's reputation. You little hoodlums, don't you know who I am? You're here to collect your debt. Wait for me to tell my dad. Be careful, my dad will flip your East Street upside down." When the hooligans heard this, they looked at each other and smiled. They turned around and tied him up in the car and took him back. As for what happened afterwards, it was rather shocking. It was said that after this brat was taken back, his attitude was very tough and arrogant. He probably relied on his strong background and spoke in a very foul tone. He even threatened to raze the Gu family to the ground. When these words fell into Gu Jinglian's ears, it alarmed the great demon king of the Gu family. One could imagine what would happen to this kid. One of his hands and one of his legs had been chopped off. She was imprisoned and tortured for half a month. When she was finally released, she was tortured to the point of insanity. Finally, she was sent to a mental hospital to recuperate. This shocking kidnapping even alarmed the city leaders, but when they found out that the culprits were the servants of the Gu family, no one dared to say a word. Chapter 1864. Seeing this, Dai Jianqing was heartbroken. Hence, he gritted his teeth and wanted to find out who the culprit was. But when he found out that it was the Gu family, he did not dare to say anything and swallowed his anger. In the end, in less than a year, he was exposed for corruption and quickly fell from power. Of course, it was obvious who was behind his fall. From then on, no one in the capital dared to provoke the Gu family after they found out about their methods. As soon as Qin Zhou said this, Yun Shishir made the connection between Gu Xingze and the Gu family. Qin Zhou smiled and said, "Shishir, I can say this. With the Gu family as his backing, no one in the capital would dare to cause trouble for Xingze. Of course, except for the Mu family." Gu Xingze's meteoric rise to fame was not only due to his excellent singing and acting skills, but also because of his stunning looks, which made him a natural idol. More importantly, it was because of the Gu family behind him that no one dared to offend. When Gu Xingze debuted in the entertainment industry, his father did not approve of him at first. With the Gu family's reputation, it would be bad if word got out that there was an actor in the entertainment industry. But after Gu Jinglian took over, Not only did he not interfere, he even started to pour a lot of resources into Gu Xingze. Everyone knew that some of the Gu family's power and assets were shady. Naturally, they needed a clean name. Although they had established a listed company, it would be too ostentatious if they invested a lot of money. Hence, Gu Jinglian set up a venture capital fund and invested a lot of money into Gu Xingze's movies. It could be said that this was the best of both worlds. Hence, the fact that Gu Xingze was able to stay in the entertainment industry for so long was inseparable from Gu Jinglian's support. Now that Gu Xingze had been blacklisted, even Gu Jinglian could not do anything about it. So, who else could have blacklisted Gu Xingze besides Mu Yaja? Yin Shirshir sucked in a breath of cold air, as she understood what was going on at once. You mean? Qin Zhou knocked on the table, but there was no expression on his face. Other than the Mu family, who else would dare to provoke the Gu family? Why? Yin Shirshir couldn't figure out why Mu Yaja wanted to ban him. Shirshir, you're so smart. You should know why Xingzhe was banned. Qin Zhou's eyes were unreadable. The meaning behind his words was self-evident. Yin Shirshir was stunned for a moment. She suddenly thought of something and lowered her head helplessly. Both of them sat in silence, but they had a tacit understanding. I didn't want to end up like this, but, you know what? Xingzhe likes you very much, and for your sake he's silently giving his all, but maybe it's just not fate. But this kid seems to have been bewitched. There are so many women, but it seems like he only wants you. Qin Zhou suddenly smiled and looked at her playfully. I have to say, Shirshir, your charm is really great. You're the only one who can make Xingzhe fall head over heels for you. Yin Shirshir kept quiet. But you don't have to blame yourself. This has nothing to do with you. He's the one who can't get over it. I've already warned him many times, but he doesn't listen. There's nothing I can do. I already knew that this day would come. If he doesn't restrain his feelings for you, he'll definitely anger Chairman Mu. Chairman Mu's ban was also within my expectations. Oh. Chapter 1865. I didn't know that he has such feelings for me. You're so stupid. Can't you tell? Why do you think Xingzhe is willing to use his own resources to support you and give you such exposure when you just debuted? Do you think Xingzhe accepted the Love Diary when he never participates in reality shows? Qin Zhou paused for a moment, his heart aching for her. Can't you tell? Gu Xingzhe is just doing it for you. Even if it's fake or just an act, he wants to have you even if it's just an act. Can't you tell? The love and doting he shows for you on the show is not an act at all. Enough. Yin Shirshir suddenly interrupted him. Why is he doing this? If he doesn't want to, he doesn't have to accept it. What do you mean by acting? I don't want him to be like this. I only respect him as a senior. I don't have any other feelings for him. He'll only disturb my heart and cause trouble. I cherish my friendship with him, but he doesn't treat you as a friend at all. Qin Zhou frowned. Yin Shirshir closed her eyes. I know, but I feel even more guilty when he acts like this. Qin Zhou looked at her silently and suddenly smiled. Don't feel guilty. If you really feel sorry for Xingzhe, don't see him again. Let him forget you and cut off his feelings for you. Whether it's him or you to him, it's a disaster. Do you understand? Yes. Don't worry. Chairman Mu has been merciful to Gu Xingzhe and didn't make things difficult for him. He banned him because he didn't want him to pester you anymore. That's all. When Yin Shirshir left Qin Zhou's office, she held her arm and was in a daze. Qin Zhou's words were still ringing in her ears. All of Xingzhe's work has been put on hold. With Chairman Mu's ban, no production team dares to invite him to do shows. All the production teams have also removed him. I'm afraid he won't be able to appear in front of the public for a long time. After being frozen, he's now recuperating at home. I hope he can be alone and think it through. After Gu Xingzhe was banned, his Weibo stopped updating. The fans were extremely sensitive. After all, before this, Gu Xingzhe's update frequency was maintained at 1 update a day. Her fans were extremely worried about her Weibo that had not updated for 10 days. The most recent Weibo post had hundreds of thousands of comments. They were all asking why their idol had not updated for so long. Could it be that something had happened? All the fans were extremely worried. Some people even speculated that Gu Xingze was suffering from depression. Recently, he had been very quiet on the show. He did not have much energy, and the melancholy in his eyes made his fans feel as if their hearts were being stabbed by a knife. Some people even dug up the photos of Gu Xingze's pale and sickly face at the premiere ceremony not long ago. They were worried that their idol's body had collapsed from overworking. Some were also worried that Gu Xingze might have met with some mishap. In the end, the production crew of The Green Apple was alerted. They had no choice but to come forward and explain that Gu Xingze was ill and needed a long period of rest, so he did not want anyone to disturb him. As for the roadshow and the promotion of the movie, he would also be absent. The fans were extremely disappointed. Chapter 1866. However, everyone was well aware of the situation. Gu Xingze was indeed sick, but he might not be able to make a comeback after this retirement. Lin Fengtian was even more regretful. Qin Zhou announced to the public that Gu Xingze was unwell. Other than Yun Shirshir, even Lin Fengtian did not know what was wrong and thought that Xingze was really sick. In the next few days, Yun Shirshir was extremely busy. She was busy with the promotion of the movie, the filming of Lethal Beauty, the promotion on Weibo, and the performance on variety shows. Her entire schedule was packed to the brim, and she did not have any free time. After becoming famous, she could not adapt to the huge workload that came with it. It turned out that becoming a celebrity, especially a celebrity who became famous overnight, was actually such a tiring thing. A moment ago, she was still sleepy and in a daze. The next second, she was brought to the dressing room. After a lot of trouble, she appeared in front of the camera beautifully and cooperated with the media's interview with a smile on her face. After the interview, there was almost no time to breathe. She was quickly brought to the fashion magazine studio by Qin Zhou to shoot a fashion blockbuster. At night, she had to rush to finish her scenes, and was dragged by Qin Zhou to read the script. She was so tired that her heart bled. During the busy break, Qin Zhou teased her. Shirshir, how does it feel to become famous overnight? Yun Shirshir was so tired that she did not want to talk. She only rolled her eyes at him. Qin Zhou was amused by her glare and laughed out loud. Of course, there were also things to be happy about. For example, the balance in her account had finally broken through the 10 million mark. In the past few days, she had negotiated a few advertising contracts and was earning money like crazy. 2 of the big advertisers had already transferred the money. She endorsed many products, from the small ones to facial cleansers, shampoo and skincare products, to the big ones to luxury cars, department stores and luxury brands. Because she endorsed a mobile phone, she had no choice but to replace her old one. The advertiser requested that she had to use their company's mobile phone whenever she attended public events, even if she was walking through the airport. Yun Shirshir did not know whether to laugh or cry. Looking at her life, it was really full of ups and downs. She could not help but sigh. On this day, Yun Shirshir had just rushed back to the set for filming. Today she had a scene with Huajin. Ever since the 2 of them quarreled last time, Yun Shirshir's attitude towards Huajin was much colder. As she and Huajin did not have many scenes together, they rarely had the chance to meet each other again. This time, she was returning to the set to act in a scene with him. Hence, in the dressing room, the 2 of them had a face-to-face confrontation. Shirshir. Huajin had just walked into the makeup room when he spotted her. He happily walked over and sat beside her, nuzzling her gently. You haven't been on set for the past few days. Are you busy promoting the movie that has just been released? Yun Shirshir ignored him. Huajin's eyes were filled with desolation as he asked guiltily, Why? Are you still angry about that matter? Yun Shirshir continued to ignore him. Huajin panicked and looked aggrieved. Okay. I know I was wrong. Next time, I won't make fun of you or tease you anymore. Yun Shirshir's expression softened a little. In fact, after what had happened, her anger towards Huajin had dissipated a little. Thinking back, he was obviously joking. She had naively believed him and could not blame anyone. Forget it. Chapter 1867. All right. I'm not angry anymore, okay? Stay away from me. Don't stick close to me. She pushed him away with a look of disdain. No. I like to stick close to you. Huajin saw that her anger had subsided, and a look of joy flashed past his eyes. I've watched your movie. Oh. To support you, I booked the entire theater and invited the film crew to watch it. Hua Jin coaxed her. Yin Shirshir, however, remained indifferent. Oh. Why are you so cold? Hua Jin was a little dissatisfied with her indifferent tone. I'm so supportive of you. Aren't you touched at all? Yin Shirshir made an exaggerated expression. I'm so touched. After a pause, her face became indifferent again. Is that okay? Hua Jin. Hua Jin complained sadly. Boo. Shirshir, you're so heartless. Your eyes tell me that you're not touched at all. But Shirshir, your acting is really great. I've watched your movie and realized that you have a special charm when you wear the school uniform. Hua Jin praised and coaxed her at the same time. Yin Shirshir was speechless. Just say what you want to say. You don't have to keep kissing my ass, right? What do you mean kissing your ass? Can't you be a little more positive? Can't you just praise me? How is this a simple praise? One who is unaccountably solicitous is hiding evil intentions. I think you're obviously up to no good. Hua Jin felt even more hurt. He pursed his lips and stared at her with his watery eyes, as if he was silently complaining. Yin Shirshir continued with what she was doing and ignored him. Although she was ignoring him, Hua Jin stood alone at the side and kept nagging. Aya, our Shirshir is really amazing. Her first movie and the box office sales have exceeded 1 billion yuan. I'm sure that this movie will set a new record for box office sales. When that time comes, you'll be an A-list actress. Your future will be bright. There was no need to praise her so much. She wasn't the only one who contributed to the high box office sales. To put it bluntly, the box office appeal of Gu Xingze and Lin Fengtian combined should have achieved this result. She was at most the icing on the cake. She was very encouraged to be recognized by the audience. She did not dare to hope for anything else. Hua Jin was still eloquent. Your acting skills are so good, and you're so beautiful. If there are a few more movies that can achieve such good results, you'll have billions in box office sales in a few years. I have a feeling that you'll definitely be able to compete for the Best Newcomer Award at the Golden Phoenix Awards. Yin Shirshir frowned in annoyance as she fixed her makeup in front of the mirror. Hua Jin looked at her. His gaze suddenly fell on the diamond ring on her finger, and he was stunned. Why is there a ring on your ring finger? Hua Jin was stunned for a few seconds before he broke into a smile. Idiot. You're not engaged and not married. How can you wear a ring on your ring finger? Yin Shirshir suddenly turned to look at him. What does it have to do with you whether I wear a ring or not? Hua Jin felt even more wronged. I'm just concerned about you. As he said this, he reached out to grab her hand. You can't wear a ring carelessly. If the media catches this scene, they'll definitely release a statement about your secret marriage. Yin Shirshir avoided his hand and said angrily, Don't move. Chapter 1868. Yin Shirshir smiled casually, but the corners of her lips curled up slightly. She replied softly, Yes. I'm engaged. Hua Jin was stunned for a few seconds. What? He was stunned, and his eyes were blank. Yin Shirshir turned her head and stared into his eyes. She replied seriously, Yes, I'm engaged. Hua Jin was stunned for a moment before he laughed. Are you kidding me? Do you think I'm you? Do I need to lie to you when I'm just joking around? After that, she turned back and touched up her makeup in front of the mirror. There was a dead silence around her. After such a long period of silence, Yin Shirshir was not used to it. She turned around in confusion and saw that Hua Jin was silent, staring at her without saying a word. What's wrong? Hua Jin frowned, but he could not say a word. He looked inexplicably lonely. You look weird. What's wrong? Shirshir, are you really engaged? Hua Jin still found it hard to believe, but his eyes were full of caution. Yin Shirshir was a little defeated by him. She said helplessly, Hua Jin, I'm really engaged. I'm not lying to you. Hua Jin's eyes widened. His lips moved, but he did not say anything. In the end, there was only silence. Her phone suddenly rang. Yin Shirshir immediately went to the side to answer the call. Hello. On the other end, Muyage's deep voice was heard. Are you still filming? Yin Shirshir smiled gently and explained patiently. Yes. There's a scene today that needs to be res hot. I've been busy with work recently, so there's been a delay. I'm back. I miss you a little. When are you coming back? Mu Yaja's magnetic voice was very clear in the incomparably quiet room. Hua Jin did not have the intention of eavesdropping, but he could still clearly hear Mu Yaja's gentle words. It turned out that, was she really engaged? The man on the phone should be her fiancé, right? How could this be? He thought. Yun Shirshir held the phone and gently coaxed. Wait for me at home, okay? When I'm done, I'll go home. Good. No matter how late it is, I will wait for you to come back. Yes. A sweet smile appeared on Yun Shirshir's face. She hung up the phone and returned to the dressing mirror. However, she saw that Hua Jin's face was strangely silent. His head was lowered, and his eyes were buried in the shadow of his forehead. She couldn't see what emotions were hidden in his eyes, but the lines of his shoulders were inexplicably stiff and cold. Yun Shirshir's expression froze for a moment. What's wrong with you? She was so energetic just a moment ago. Why did she suddenly become obedient and quiet? This person is really strange. Yun Shirshir muttered to herself as she sat down in front of the dressing mirror. Hua Jin suddenly stood up and left the dressing room without a word. She stared blankly at his back view as he left and muttered, Weirdo. At night, when they were rushing to finish the night work, it was already 10 at night. The weather was at its coldest. Yun Shirshir could not stand the temperature of a few degrees below zero at night in the north. On the set, she tiredly wrapped herself in a military coat. There were a few times when she dozed off and almost fell asleep. Hua Jin sat beside her, but he was still strangely silent and did not make a sound. Mushi busied herself by pouring hot tea for Yun Shirshir and running back and forth to ask the set keeper when they could start shooting. It was so nerve-wracking. Chapter 1869. Yun Shirshir, who was wearing a thin costume, was shivering from the cold even though she was wrapped in a military coat. Her assistant ran back and stomped her feet in anger. Shirshir, you won't be able to do it for the time being. Lin Ji is such a disappointment. She actually got stuck during filming. Director Gu is scolding her, but no one dares to say a word. If we wait for her to finish, who knows how long it'll take? Why don't you go back to the dressing room to hide from the wind? It's cold at night, don't catch a cold. No need. Yun Shirshir shook her head with a cup of water in her hand. Filming is over. If it's my turn and I can't be found, Director Gu will fly into a rage again. Her assistant was both angry and distressed. Still, the weather is so cold. Your body is weak to begin with. What if you can't take it and fall sick? Yun Shirshir, however, said, there are so many people waiting, yet they don't seem to have any complaints. I'm not the only one waiting. Let's wait patiently. That's true. If you hide in the dressing room, who knows if someone will make sarcastic remarks about you acting like a big shot again. As she said this, she shot a meaningful look at the assistant standing at the side. Both of them snorted at this. As the female lead and the supporting female lead's assistants, they did not see eye to eye with each other. Hence, they often had conflicts with each other in the production team. Yun Shirshir waited patiently. Lin Ji's ability to dawdle was admirable. It was just a simple scene, yet they still had not finished filming after more than 3 hours. The weather was very cold, and she could not stand the cold. She was shivering during the shoot, and her voice was trembling when she said the lines. Gu Xiaoyang was about to explode. He scolded her in front of everyone and gave her a good scolding. Her assistant complained to Yun Shirshir. Shirshir, wait. You must do your best. Director Gu is in a bad mood now. If he vents his anger on you, it'll be terrible. I know. I'll try my best to get it done in one take. Yun Shirshir thought to herself that there was still a man at home waiting for her return. She definitely had to work harder and muster all her strength to pass in one go. Hua Jin, on the other hand, remained silent throughout. No one knew what he was thinking. At midnight, Lin Ji's scene finally ended. When she returned, she was wrapped in a military coat, and her nose was red from the cold. Her assistant escorted her back to the lounge. Mushi snickered at the side. Look at how cold she is. Her nose is about to fall off from the cold. Mushi, don't talk nonsense. Hee all right. The scriptwriter rushed over to remind them. Everyone, get ready for the next scene. We'll be filming in 10 minutes. Got it, thank you, Yin Shirshir said. The stage keeper smiled and hurriedly went to inform the group of extras. When it was time for Yin Shirshir to go on stage, she was extremely focused. Whether it was her positioning, lines, expression, or acting skills, everything was on point. The problem was that the smooth plot was interrupted when it came to Huajin. If she was not distracted, she would forget her lines. Huajin did not have many lines for this scene. In the past, with his ability, he could pass this scene in one take. However, in just half an hour, he had 3 NGs. He exploded on the spot. Chapter 1870. However, Huajin kept his head down and didn't even try to brush him off. He responded lazily but didn't say anything else. Gu Xiaoyang glanced at his expression and wanted to scold him but stopped himself. Clearly, he didn't want to offend someone like Huajin. He had already vented his anger by scolding him in front of so many people, so he didn't want to be too forceful with him. Thus, he held back his anger and took a few deep breaths before lecturing. Act well from now on. Yes, I understand, great director. Huajin's attitude was very casual. Gu Xiaoyang's suppressed anger was stirred up by his flippant and provocative words. He suddenly strode over and stuck close to him. Looking at him, he gritted his teeth and said in a voice that only the two of them could hear. Don't think that just because you have a strong background, you can be so arrogant in front of the crew. Huajin, you were able to get into this crew because you have someone supporting you, but I don't want to be bullied by you. Act well. If you don't want to act, then get lost. I won't get lost. Huajin smiled mischievously and blew out a breath at him. If you're so capable, why don't you kick me out of the crew? Director Gu. You. Gu Xiaoyang clenched his fists in exasperation. After enduring for a while, he suddenly stormed off. Yin Shirshir stared blankly at the sudden scene in front of her. She was a little confused. Then, she looked at Huajin, who was standing there arrogantly, looking as though he wasn't convinced. His handsome brows were slightly furrowed, and he was obviously making things difficult for Gu Xiaoyang on purpose. She walked over and asked patiently, Huajin, can you act well? The moment Yin Shirshir spoke, Huajin's tone inexplicably softened. He smiled and said, I'm acting well. Is this the result of acting well? There are problems everywhere, be it your positioning or your lines. It's just a few lines. How many NGs have you had? Huajin pouted and said unhappily, I'm not in a good condition. I gave you so much time to adjust your condition, and now you're telling me that you're not in a good condition? Don't you think it's too perfunctory? Everyone looked over curiously. Seeing that Yin Shirshir actually spoke to Huajin in such a tone, everyone was stunned. Everyone in the production team knew that Huajin had a strong backer. Hence, he was rather arrogant in the production team, and no one dared to offend him. Even the strong-willed Gu Xiaoyang had to lower his status when speaking to him. But Yin Shirshir dared to speak to him like that in public. Everyone secretly sighed in their hearts. What great courage! Huajin did not say anything. However, Yin Shirshir did not stop criticizing him. Please put more effort into your acting. This is not the first time this has happened. Everyone was tired, especially Director Gu. He had been filming for the whole day. Couldn't he be a little more considerate? Is there a need to drag everyone down and suffer with you on such a cold night? Huajin only said one sentence, I'm not happy. Not happy? Yin Shirshir was so angry that she laughed. If you're not happy, you want everyone to suffer with you? Huajin, aren't you a little too selfish? Huajin stared at her, dumbfounded. Then, he suddenly said in an extremely strange tone, Shirshir, are you in a hurry to go home after filming? What? Chapter 1871. Huajin's tone was very strange. It vaguely gave off a feeling of jealousy. Yin Shirshir did not understand why he would say such strange things, and smiled coldly. Everyone wants to finish filming as soon as possible and go home to accompany their families. Huajin's eyes were filled with loneliness, but he laughed at himself. That's great. Someone is waiting for you to come home. But I'm not. There was envy and disappointment in his eyes. Yin Shirshir. Huajin lowered his head and compromised. Okay, I'll do my best and try to pass it in one take. I won't take up your time. The following scenes were surprisingly smooth. Basically, all the scenes were completed in one take. When Hua Jin was serious, his ability was jaw-dropping. Be it the emotion in his eyes or the dramatic tension in his expression, they were flawless. Everyone predicted that Hua Jin would definitely become the second Gu Xingzi. He had such ability and talent. After the scenes were over, Hua Jin still had to stay behind to finish the night work. Yin Shishir finished her scenes and hurried home. On the way back, Mushi carefully asked while driving, "Shishir, do you feel that Hua Jin has an inexplicable dependence on you?" "I feel that he seems to like you a lot." "Of course. It's not the kind of love between a man and a woman. I keep feeling that he's a lonely person, so he's like a younger brother relying on his older sister." Mushi said truthfully. At the mention of Hua Jin, Yin Shishir felt a headache. "Don't worry about him. What's wrong? This person is really a weirdo. His temper is weird, and so is his personality." Mushi was stunned for a moment before she smiled and said, "Actually, I think that Hua Jin is quite a good person." "Why do you say that?" "In the past, when I didn't interact with Hua Jin, I felt quite afraid of this person. It's said that Hua Jin's backer is not ordinary. The backer behind him is mysterious and powerful. Back when Hua Jin joined the cast of Lethal Beauty, you don't know how many young hunks were fighting for his role. A IP drama like Lethal Beauty is bound to set off a craze once it's broadcasted. Moreover, the male lead's character is quite likable and has many loyal fans. Basically, as long as one gets this role, it's guaranteed to be a hit." However, with so many people vying for the role, all it took was a few words from Hua Jin, and the role was decided for him. "Don't you think it's scary?" Yin Shishir was silent. "Also, I heard some insider's news." She suddenly asked mysteriously, "Do you know Li Jiuxian?" "Yes. Back then, in order to be able to act in this drama, he even slept with the producer. In the end, it was Hua Jin who won it. Li Jiuxian is about to vomit blood from anger." Yin Shishir was surprised. "If I remember correctly, the producer of Lethal Beauty is a middle-aged uncle. So what?" Mushi did not think much of it, and was clearly used to it. "This industry is very chaotic. That producer is gay. Although Li Jiuxian isn't, he's willing to go all out for this role. What's a few nights of sleeping with someone if he can get a gold medal role?" Yin Shishir was flustered for a moment before she muttered to herself, "The rich and powerful circle is really messy." Chapter 1872. Actually, that producer wanted to hook up with Hua Jin. However, Hua Jin has a strong backer. Even if he's eyeing him covetously, he doesn't have the guts to do it. "Is Hua Jin so popular the moment he debuted?" Mushi shook her head. "Nope," she continued. "Hua Jin only became popular in the past 2 years. Because he has a sugar daddy, his status naturally rose. Before this, he was a money boy." Yin Shishir was confused. "What does a money boy mean?" Mushi's lips twitched. "You don't even know what a money boy means?" "MHM. I don't understand." The red light at the intersection lit up. Mushi stopped in her tracks and turned to look at her. Under the dim light, her expression seemed a little blurred. In ancient times, money boys were also known as male prostitutes. Now you can think of them as male toys of some rich people. Yin Shishir was shocked. She suddenly recalled what Hua Jin had said to her. "I entered this industry because I was sold by my father when I was very young." Could it be his background wasn't a joke? It was real. While she was in a daze, Mushi continued to explain in her ear. Hua Jin used to be a famous male toy. In the beginning, he was a lowly man who accompanied customers in bars to drink. Later, he was bought by the boss of a management company and kept as a mistress for a few years. At that time, Hua Jin was not famous yet. Although he was young, he was handsome and youthful. Many bosses liked this type of man, so he was considered a hot commodity and had been booked by many sugar daddies. Later, the boss of the management company saw that he was handsome and had a good face shape. So he gave him a stage name and tried to promote him as an artist. Who would have thought that after acting in a period drama, it would become so popular? He had also leaped up the ranks and became a popular actor in period dramas. Later, he was taken over by an even more powerful sugar daddy. "He's really depraved," Yin Shishir said in disgust. Mushi shook her head and sighed. Shishir, what you're saying is wrong. In this industry, there are many times when you can't do as you wish. It's not like being kept or being depraved. Sometimes, even if you're unwilling, you have no choice but to submit in this world where the strong preys on the weak. Who would be willing to sell their body? Huajin probably lived an inhuman life in those years. I heard that Huajin seemed to have tried to commit suicide in the past. He cut his wrists in the bathtub, but he was discovered in time and was saved. Yin Shirshir was stunned. However, after this sugar daddy's daddy, it's been different. This sugar daddy is so powerful that he even secretly dealt with a few of the people who used to torture Huajin in the past. Got rid with him. Yin Shirshir was doubtful about this word. What do you mean by handle? Mushi cleared her throat and said, that's what it means. She made a throat-slitting motion, vivid and vivid. Yin Shirshir's face turned pale. How did this happen? This industry was darker than she had imagined. Chapter 1873. Otherwise, why do you think the entire production team doesn't dare to go against Huajin? Huajin is so arrogant and overbearing. Have you seen anyone who dares to stand up for him? She shook her head. No one dares to, except for you. That's why I'm very afraid of Huajin. When I first joined the production team, I didn't even dare to look him in the eye and practically avoided him. So what if she's beautiful? She's just like a poppy flower, beautiful but deadly. After a pause, she continued. But now my impression of him has changed. You don't know this, but when you're not on set, sometimes the people in the production team will gossip about you. If someone dares to say anything bad about you in front of Huajin, he'll stand up for you. With him protecting you, no one in the production team will dare to criticize you, even if they hate you to the core. Take Lin Ji's assistant for example. Do you think she'll dare to say anything about you? Yin Shirshir fell silent. After sending her home, Mushi drove off. Before she left, she did not forget to remind her. Shirshir, I'll pick you up at 8 tomorrow morning. You must wake up on time. Yin Shirshir waved her goodbye and dragged her tired body home. Just as she opened the door, she was greeted by the warm light of the living room. Mu Yaja was sitting on the sofa reading the newspaper. When he heard the movement at the entrance, he looked up and smiled faintly. You're back. Haven't you rested yet? She thought that he was already asleep. It was already so late. It was 1 in the morning. Yet he was still waiting for her in the living room? Yin Shirshir's heart warmed. She originally thought that she would be greeted by a dark room, but she did not expect to see him still waiting for her when she opened the door. How can I sleep soundly if you don't come back? Mu Yaja said as he gently patted the sofa. Come here. His summons made her feel like a summoned beast. She did not know whether to laugh or cry. She closed the door, took off her coat, hung it on the hanger, and walked to the sofa. Just as she sat beside him, the man's strong arm wrapped around her waist and pulled her into his embrace. Before she could react, the man lowered his head and sealed her lips with a wolfish kiss. He tasted her beautiful breath. He had been thinking about this kiss for too long. He had been longing for the woman in his arms for so long. During this business trip for more than half a month, he missed her so much that he almost went crazy. After they arrived in Luo City, Jiangshen and Lu Jinyu were busy hunting for women. They were tortured by him, so naturally, they were busy looking for women to fill their emptiness. Mu Yaja was immersed in his work, but he could still hold himself back from not seeing her for a few days. For more than half a month, he didn't even know how he had endured it. Don't go on business trips. Don't leave me for so long. Mu Yaja hugged her tightly, unwilling to let go. Since they got off the plane, he missed her so much that he did not feel sleepy at all. If she did not come back, he would not feel at ease at all. Otherwise, why did they say that absence makes the heart grow fonder? Lovers in love, not to mention half a month. Even if they were separated for 7 or 8 days, they would still miss each other so much that their souls would leave their bodies. Not to mention the long period of more than half a month. Yin Shirshir missed him too. If it were not for the huge workload in the past half a month, she would not even know how to deal with this long night without him. Chapter 1874. He hugged her, and she hugged his waist in return, passionately responding to his demands. She even knew how to take the initiative to pry open his thin lips, entangling with his warm tongue, unable to part. She missed him too. She missed the warmth of his body. She missed the mesmerizing curve of his lips. Yin Shirshir lingered on his lips. After a few flirtatious moments, she panted coquettishly and looked at his handsome and devilish face with her languid eyes. "Why are you back so late?" he said in a displeased tone. But his tone was full of indulgence, and there was no hint of blame in it. Yin Shirshir replied, "The filming took place very late and the weather was cold, so the progress was a little slower." "Stop filming." As he rubbed against her ear, his breath smelled like orchids as he whispered these words. This was not the first time he had said this. Filming had taken up too much of their time together. He felt very dissatisfied. Yin Shirshir looked a little guilty. She cupped his face and comforted him. "Aren't I back now?" "You're back so late and you're still speaking in such a self-righteous tone?" Muyaja's tone was unfriendly. His hand suddenly reached under her clothes and through the thick cotton coat. He easily grasped her softness. He leaned close to her ear and said in a threatening and flirtatious tone, "Tell me, how should I punish you?" "Hey." Yin Shirshir was angry and amused at the same time. She pushed his shoulder and said, "I'm only back a little late. Do you want to punish me?" "Uh-huh. I waited for you for 5 hours. Tell me, do you think you should be punished?" Muyaja's arrogant tone made the corners of her lips curl up even more. She hugged his shoulder and gave him a peck. She smiled sweetly and said, "My dear husband, is this compensation enough?" "Not enough." Yin Shirshir kissed him again. "Then how about this?" "Not enough." "Then what is enough?" Muyaja sucked on her cheeks reluctantly and kissed her deeply. He persevered in exploring the sweetness between her lips. However, at this moment, only a kacha sound could be heard. The bedroom door was opened. Muyaja was the first to react. He looked up and saw Yu in his pajamas suddenly appearing at the end of the corridor. He looked at the intimate scene in the living room, and was tongue-tied for a moment. There was a look of uneasiness on his little face. He stood there uneasily and wanted to retreat silently. However, when he saw Muyaja's gaze on him, he could not move his feet for a moment. D***M. Yu helplessly covered his face. He was clearly speechless. What a coincidence, he actually caught his daddy and mommy being lovey-dovey again. How awkward. And this was not to mention. To God Tawas it telepathy. As long as daddy and mommy were being intimate, he would always appear coincidentally. Itamomo you to mommy and daddy to mommy. To mommy to mommy to mommy to mommy and mommy. And to mom to YY to daddy and daddy to mommy and momly to mommy and to momus. Would daddy think that it was premeditated? To daddy on purpose? He was innocent. He was not going to take the blame. Yu could not hide the awkwardness on his face. Yin Shirshir turned her gaze and saw Yu standing there looking tired and embarrassed. She immediately wanted to get up and push Muyaja away. However, the next second, Muyaja pulled her into his arms domineeringly. Chapter 1875. Yu cleared his throat and pretended to rub his sleepy eyes innocently. He said righteously, "I'm thirsty, so I want to get some hot water to drink." Drinking hot tea is a good habit. Approved. Muyaja said calmly. Yu said politely, "Thank you, father, for your permission." Yin Shirshir was speechless. Muyaja looked at him meaningfully and said, "After you've poured the hot water, drink it and go to sleep. Do you understand?" Yu exchanged glances with him. The father and son looked at each other with tacit understanding. One of them was using his eyes to say, "I'm busy with your mommy." The other was using his eyes to reply, "I understand. I'll avoid it." Yu nodded and smiled knowingly. "Got it." Then, without looking sideways, he rushed into the kitchen. Within half a minute, Yu returned with a cup of hot tea and walked into the bedroom without looking away. Yin Shirshir was dumbfounded. Muyaja kissed her as a form of consolation. "Let's continue." Just as he said that, they heard a cough. The two of them turned around and saw Yu's little head popping out from behind the wall. Then he reminded them kindly, "It's cold at night. Daddy and mommy should rest early too. Remember to strike a balance between work and rest." With that, he turned around and ran back into the room, slamming the door shut. Muyaja was speechless. Yin Shirshir was speechless. This little clown. Muyaja smiled, but he was annoyed in his heart. Then, he carried Yin Shirshir in his arms and strode into the bedroom. After entering the room, the man's ambition seemed to need no more concealment. He held her in his arms and let her small hand to his waist. Yin Shershur's face burned the moment she touched it. The man's urgency made it clear that he no longer had any patience. He was no longer willing to exchange pleasantries, and wanted to get straight to the point. She wanted to dodge, but he was too strong and refused to let go of her hand. That place was already eyeing her covetously, causing her face to blush even more and her heart to beat faster. It was as if she had been dyed with top-grade rouge, causing her to be charming and moving. What? You should like it very much. In his passion, the man bit her earlobe and said extremely heart-stopping words. Her face grew redder and redder, and she said shyly, "You don't talk nonsense. Isn't it?" The man smiled evilly. The more shy she was, the more he wanted to take possession of her beauty. So he threw her on the bed, the tip of their noses touching, while pecking her lips and skillfully unbuttoning her clothes. "Just now you also showed an impatient look. Why are you so reserved now? It's rare for you to take the initiative. I like it very much." His smile was devilishly charming. His originally cold lips, because of the lingering kiss with her, were slightly warm. When his lips touched her beautiful shoulders and neck, they left dark red marks. Looking at the seductive look in his eyes, Yin Shershur hummed for a long time, but she couldn't say anything decent. She really did desire him. Chapter 1876. He said that he liked it when she took the initiative. Recalling his excessively naughty flirting, Yin Shershur felt shy and uneasy at the same time, but the man saw it all. He grabbed her chin and wrapped his arms around her waist, forcing her to completely match his body. "Do you know? The more shy you are, the more I want to see you under me." That mesmerizing look. Yin Shershur was so embarrassed that she grabbed his collar and reached out to cover the mouth that kept spitting out words that made her feel at a loss. Muyaja. Why was this man so different from usual when it came to matters of the heart? Usually he was dressed in a suit and looked elegant. He gave off a refined and courteous feeling, like an elegant king. And in this aspect, whenever he was in the middle of matters, he would always say things that made her blush. "Stop talking." "Okay, I won't talk. Let's do it directly." As he murmured, he directly covered her small mouth that wanted to say something. His scorching hot breath brushed against her cheeks and neck. Finally, he invaded her small mouth and tasted her sweet and enchanting breath. She was forced to float under him. His increasingly violent attacks made her feel like a small boat in the middle of a raging storm, bobbing up and down on the sea. "So sweet." He bit her earlobe and said wickedly. He grabbed her little hand that was resisting and attacked even more ferociously. The long night was beautiful and enchanting. In the midst of the man's indulgent panting, he finally vented all of it. He possessed her until she couldn't take it anymore. She cried and shouted that she didn't want it anymore. Then he hugged her waist and was willing to stop. In the midst of it, there was a moment in his mind when he thought of just giving it to her. This little thing was really like a poison. Even so, he still couldn't control himself and fell into it, drinking poison to quench his thirst. After they finished, Yin Shershur nestled in his arms. She was so exhausted that she couldn't even lift her eyelids. If she moved a little, her waist would let out a tragic cry. It was as if she had just experienced a war. She felt that her whole body was about to fall apart. She was so useless. She had really worked hard to train herself, but she still couldn't handle the man's overly strong physical strength. He supported her body and lowered his head, taking in her beautiful and seductive posture. If this little thing was in ancient times, she would be a demoness that could bring disaster to the country. Even the most clear-headed monarch wouldn't be able to control himself in front of such a stunner. With such a stunner, how would he have the mood to worry about the state affairs? When he thought of it, he felt that he was a little like a fatuous monarch in ancient times who was obsessed with beauties. Muyaja smiled playfully and hugged her tightly, eliciting a soft gasp from her. "What's wrong?" "My waist is a little bit." "Why is it?" She laughed in exasperation. "You're still asking me?" "You're really..." The man murmured, but his hands were very gentle, and he began to knead for her. Yin Shershur dodged as if she had been electrocuted. "Hey. Why are you like this?" "All right, I won't tease you anymore." Chapter 1877. Although he was not a professional, his technique was especially gentle. Under his kneading, Yun Shirshir let out a comfortable moan and her body relaxed a lot. Muyaja was angry and amused at the same time. How could this woman be so delicate? However, the more delicate she was, the more he wanted to dote on her. After giving her a massage, he carried her to the shower room and cleaned up the two of them, who were sweating profusely from the shower. Feeling refreshed, he carried her into bed, turned on the heater, and fell asleep with her in his arms. It was a dreamless night until the sun rose. Mushi called to wake her up. When Yun Shirshir woke up, the sky outside the window was dark. In winter, the sun woke up later. At 7 o'clock, the sky had just turned bright. The weather in the morning was very cold. She struggled with herself for a long time, before she was willing to get out of the warm bed. At this time, a certain man was still immersed in his sleep. He hugged her domineeringly. His strong arms were like a pair of shackles that were difficult to break free from. She was in a hurry to get out of bed and freshen up, but she also had to be careful not to wake him up. After a lot of effort, she finally freed herself from his arms. She changed her clothes and walked into the bathroom. After washing up, she was ready to go out. Just as she opened the door, the man was sensitively alerted. Yun Shirshir turned around and saw that the man's eyes were slightly open. "Where are you going?" The man's extremely hoarse voice sounded softly. Yun Shirshir chuckled and walked to the bed. She squatted down and gently covered his forehead. "Wifey is going to work. Darling, sleep a little more." "So early?" Muyaja was a little dissatisfied. He woke up from his sleepiness and covered the back of her hand. There was a dangerous look in his eyes. "Why are you going to work so early?" I have to rush for an event. My schedule is quite full today, so I might be a little late when I come back." Muyaja narrowed his eyes. Chinzhou, that D*MN vampire. This little thing's body was so weak, yet he could not bear to torture her. Yet he made her schedule so full? Courting death. "I heard that the movie you starred in did well at the box office." "Yes. That's why I received a lot of notices." He had already signed several contracts. Muyaja's gaze became increasingly dangerous. This Chinzhou really deserved to die. Could it be that he turned a deaf ear to his words? Taking advantage of his absence, he arranged such a full schedule for his woman. Yun Shirshir didn't know what he was thinking. After being affectionate with him for a while, she hurriedly went out. As soon as she left, Muyaja picked up his phone and called Chinzhou. Chinzhou had just woken up too. As soon as the call connected, Muyaja's voice, which was laced with anger, came through. "You've arranged so many jobs for my woman, and she's always back in the middle of the night. Have you considered my feelings when you make her so busy?" Chinzhou woke up immediately. Aya. It was early in the morning, and the big boss was really full of resentment. Muyaja snorted coldly. "It seems that you've turned a deaf ear to my words. I've already made the arrangements. Although Shirshir is busy now, I've already informed the crew that she can leave after filming. There's no need for her to stay on set. It was already 1 o'clock when she came back yesterday." Chapter 1878. His infuriating tone made it easy for a man without a family to speak without feeling any pain. Muyaja was even more displeased. "I don't like it when she leaves early and returns late. It's so tiring. As for the rest, you can do as you deem fit. I'll see how you perform." Without giving him a chance to explain further, he hung up the call. Chinzhou stared at the phone screen with his mouth agape. His whole person was in a mess. "What is this? What a domineering CEO," he muttered and looked at the time. It was past 8 in the morning, which was indeed very early. The weather was still very cold at this time. No wonder this big boss was angry. His heart must be aching to see his wife rushing to work early in the morning. He sighed and held his forehead. It seemed that the schedule had to be adjusted again. Yun Shirshir had 2 jobs in the morning, so she rushed through them like a flying person. She bitterly grabbed a lunchbox and flew to the TV station to participate in a program recording. On the way, there was a traffic jam on the Outer Ring Highway. Yun Shirshir picked up her phone and prepared to watch the complete movie of The Green Apple. She did not have the chance to watch the movie after the post-production was completed, so she did not know how the overall effect of the movie was. Her assistant copied the movie to her phone, and while the traffic was busy, she watched it with relish. Romantic music, exquisite post-production rendering, thrilling plot, tear-jerking sadomasochistic love. Yin Shirshir was engrossed in watching the video. She held the phone in her hands, and was engrossed in it. It must be said that the effect was very different from what she had expected. Filming on the set was actually very boring. She had to read her lines and walk according to the script. She could not see her own expression at all, so the framework was rigid. In this aspect, Lin Fengtian was very strict. He had a good grasp of the movie, so in the script, be it her expression or lines, she had to act according to his design. She was almost like a worker, completing all the targets in an assembly line and completing the work. After filming, Yin Shirshir's heart was pounding. When it came to acting, it was actually quite different from the movie. In the past, when she watched movies, she would always be so immersed in the touching scenes. Tears would immediately flow out of her eyes. However, when acting, no matter how heart-wrenching the scene was, it was very difficult for her to immerse herself in the feelings. Sad emotions needed to be repeatedly brewed. When she really could not squeeze out tears, she would shut herself in a quiet little dark room and constantly imagine sad things. With sad music, she could grasp that feeling and return to the set to continue. However, after excellent post-production, the movie was different. When the scene came out, it was clearly a joyous scene during the filming. But in the movie, when the bridge was played, coupled with the heart-wrenching BGM, sadness filled everyone's hearts. Especially at the end, Yin Shirshir found it hard to control her sadness, and tears burst out of her eyes. When Mushi saw this, she did not know whether to laugh or cry. Shirshir, why are you so disappointing? How could she cry while watching her own movie? I really admire you. Yin Shirshir said awkwardly, because it's very touching.